Shikuki, start with an Izakaya and make everyone cry. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1 Regular Customer, Kobayashi Gentian. Neon Country, 7 p.m. In the deepest part of a food street there is a 3-story Izakaya here, with a small flower garden in front of the house at the same time. A strong and complex aroma of wine seemed to be able to penetrate the street, making pedestrians passing by feel slightly drunk, and when the moon began to shyly hide in the clouds, the lantern hanging in front of the Izakaya lit up with yellow light wind. Blow slowly wind chimes made of ceramic shards kept ringing ding, 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 ding. Gradually more and more diners come to the Izakaya. Shopkeeper, a bottle of peach blossom and lychee wine, 10 portions of salty bacon skewers, and a plate of sizzling tofu. When a female employee who had just gotten off work entered the Izakaya, she smelled the aroma of wine and the familiar smell of salty bacon, so, as usual, she quickly found a seat to sit down and order 2 or 3 side dishes. Good, just a moment. The shopkeeper, Fan, nodded. He turned around briefly, took out a bottle of exquisite peach blossom and lychee wine from a wall-mounted wine cabinet, placed it gently in front of the female employee, and then continued his work. Not long the charcoal fire under the iron grill was already burning red. When the salty bacon skewers have been marinated for a long time, slowly lean over and you can feel the temperature of the fire with your hands. As soon as you get close to the fire, the aroma of the meat immediately spreads over the surface. The smell is a little salty and a little sweet. Although there is no special sauce, it still cannot stop many diners from pursuing this delicious taste. It seems that just by smelling this smell, the female employee who just got off work couldn't help but feel slightly intoxicated. Slowly the quality of the meat gradually becomes tougher. As soon as I applied a layer of oil on it, the flame suddenly started to glow. It turns out that the oil dripped onto the carbon, causing the flesh to glow red when the firelight illuminated it, making people want to take a bite. Now the whole Izakaya everywhere is filled with the sound of clinking wine glasses and the laughter of people talking happily. Finally, after waiting for the meat skewers to completely change color, Zhang Fan quickly applied a layer of special sauce and sprinkled on 2 soul seasonings. Cumin, chili noodles. In an instant the aroma of the meat skewers has become even more fragrant, especially when paired with peach blossom and lychee wine, which is rare in this world. The taste is simply quite enjoyable. Finished work. Zhang Fan silently took a clean knife cloth and carefully wiped the sharp kitchen knife on his hand. If you look closely, you will see on the mirror-like blade it turned out to be a cold and elegant face, which made people feel so handsome and charming. In his memory, his identity was originally a chef living in China in the early years. Zhang Fan was just a small side chef in a 5-star hotel, but after his continuous efforts and some opportunities, he finally became a highly prestigious chef. Later he resigned. Then start going out on your own, operating a 5-story hotel covering an area of more than 250 square meters, because he has rich experience in cooking. And the hotel's marketing strategy is to follow the route of small profits but quick turnover. The prices of the dishes are very low, and the overall dining environment and service level of the hotel are acceptable. Therefore, the hotel business is naturally booming. However, something unexpected happened. Just when his career was booming, Zhang Fan accidentally traveled to the world of the spirit of the halberd eater. Talk about the world, whether they are ordinary people or dignitaries, almost everyone has a crazy pursuit and love for delicious food. Therefore, this world is naturally also a place with colorful cuisine, especially the Tatsuki Seiryo cooking school, which represents the #1 spot in Neon Country. Under the brutal competition mechanism adopted within the school, most of the students there are more focused on the study of cooking than ordinary people. In other words, if you want to survive in this world and achieve a career here, it must have something to do with gourmet food. At the same time, I am a chef myself. Therefore, Zhang Fan, who traveled through time, chose to open an Izakaya on this food street that only operates between 7 p.m. and 12 p.m. Yo, shopkeeper. Zhang, good evening. At this moment, a beautiful woman wearing a blue and white Tatsuki Academy uniform opened the door and walked in. Hearing this familiar voice, Zhang Fan quickly put down his kitchen knife, then raised his head slightly and looked in the direction of the voice. All I could see was Rintan Kobayashi, a regular customer in front of me. Under the soft light, the crystal-clear snow skin vaguely exudes an ivory-like halo. Among the exquisite facial features, the exquisite little mouth occasionally reveals a sharp tiger tooth, which adds a bit of naughtiness to her mature temperament. Shopkeeper. Zhang, is there something on my face? When he saw Zhang Fan's eyes, he always stared at him. Ringtone Kobayashi, who had just appeared in front of him, couldn't help but have a faint blush on her pretty face, and then she curled her lips so cutely, feeling a little happy in her heart. No, you're such a glutton. Why do you come to the Izakaya again when you have time? I miss you. The cooking. Shopkeeper. Zhang, as is the old rule, give me a bottle of Japanese sake first, then a serving of wasabi octopus, a plate of smoked beef, 2 servings of tamagoyaki, and a roasted chicken. Oh, I also want a piece of cold tofu from last time. At this time, Kobayashi Ringtone, who is a big foodie, ordered several dishes in one go. Seeing this situation, Zhang Fan also expressed that he was used to it. Even this time, he felt that she was starting to hate his food. Why, the portions of the dishes he ordered were smaller than before. After all, even though she is a delicate and frail little girl, her appetite is astonishingly large. Every time I go to an izakaya, I usually have to eat enough food for 10 adults before I can give up. Okay, please. Find a place to sit down and wait a moment. Take a deep breath first so that your emotions and mentality can slowly stabilize. Then, a smile gradually appeared on Zhang Fan's face, and he chuckled at Zhang and Ringtone. Immediately afterwards, he turned back to the cooking table and prepared the ingredients. Wine bottle cork. The moment it was opened with force, a light and refreshing scent of wine hit your nostrils instantly. This made Kobayashi riot and couldn't help but move the tip of his nose. When he felt the smell of wine, it rushed into his nose so fiercely the tens of trillions of cells in her body inevitably started beating. That's the smell of wine. Closing his eyes and enjoying this beautiful moment, Ringtone Kobayashi couldn't help but sigh. Obviously this kind of sake is unique in Neon Country. The overall taste is mild but not strong, but it is addictive. What's more, it makes people want to take a sip at any time of the day. Especially the sweet taste when you drink it is very romantic, warm and unforgettable. Then, I won't be polite. Finally, Kobayashi Gentian couldn't wait and began to sip it carefully. New books need care. I hope readers who like this book can give them more support. I am grateful. Chapter 2. Smoked beef. This kind of sake in the Neon Country, it is no exaggeration to say that it is unique. The overall taste is mild but not strong, but it is addictive and makes people want to take a sip at any time of the day. Especially the sweet taste when you drink it is very romantic, warm and unforgettable. Then, I won't be polite. Finally, Kobayashi Gentian couldn't wait and began to sip it carefully. When the clear and transparent Japanese sake flows down the tongue and into the stomach, it feels a little sweet, and the taste is not very strong. The aroma and taste are equally important, and the fruity aroma is rich. Even after swallowing, the aftertaste is smooth. The whole process seemed to make her whole body full of strength. Wow, this wine. Involuntarily, Zhang Ringtone's face became a little surprised. Night in Neon Country, it always reminds people of an izakaya inadvertently. It seems that this place always has a kind of magic. Whether you are a social worker who has just finished work, whether you are a high school student with a heavy workload, or a housewife who is working hard for life. In short, no matter where you come from, izakaya will have something to offer you. Your position, a bottle of wine, a side dish, what a delicious dish. Here, you can find pleasure and satisfaction in a beautiful dining environment. In front of me, this is Kobayashi Gentian, who has just been drinking. She is also a regular customer who often appears in the izakaya. I remember that she was here when Zhang Fan opened the restaurant on his first day, and her identity is actually a prospective third-year student of Tatsuki Academy's advanced department. I heard that not long ago. She had just become the second among the top 10, and her status was second only to Si Yingshi. She was considered to be a first-class big shot on the entire Chailyo Cuisine Academy. During this time, almost every quiet night, Kobayashi Ryuden would come to this izakaya and patronize the owner's business, and every time I come, the first thing I do is ask him for a bottle of wine. Then she drank wine alone and ate some side dishes that made her feel refreshed and delicious. Shopkeeper, your wine feels a little different from before. Although the entrance is as refreshing as before, it slowly turns into a slightly astringent aftertaste. This unique taste is hard to find with any dish, and is more suitable for drinking alone. After taking a sip, Kobayashi Gentian put down the glass and began to exhale the fragrant aroma of wine. Then, she blinked her bright eyes and asked Zhang Fan curiously, "This sake you're drinking, the alcohol content is 15 degrees, and the rice polishing step is 50%. Both of these indices are indeed different from the sake I have brewed in the past. In other words, this steak has a richer layering. As you drink it, its aroma, taste and other aspects will continue to change, so you need to calm down and savor it carefully. Only in this way can you appreciate some of the connotations of this steak. When Zhang Fan, who was busy handling the ingredients, heard this, he only raised his head and glanced at Kobayashi Gentian, and then replied calmly, "In fact, this is an Izakaya. It's been over a month since it opened." After running the business for a long time, Zhang Fan discovered that people in Neon people like to drink, and it is common to have unlimited drinks in addition. Most of the diners who come here to drink and eat are social animals in the workplace. They have a clear distinction between upper and lower ranks, so what they often see is that in the lively atmosphere of the Izakaya, the seniors will coax the juniors to keep drinking. Therefore, whenever it is about to close, Zhang Fan is faced with the problem of how to wake up drunk diners and drive them away. In desperation, some days ago Zhang Fan had no choice but to make some improvements to all the homemade wines in the Izakaya without affecting the taste and texture. We used some methods to reduce the alcohol content of all wines. After listening to Zhang Fan's explanation, Xiaolin Ringtong couldn't help but fell into deep thought. Attentive, she had already discovered that the steak in the cup was indeed less strong, but the taste was purer than before. Since the first time she came to the Izakaya for dinner, she discovered that the personable owner Zhang in front of her was indeed mysterious and extraordinary. Let's not talk about anything else. Just in the field of cooking, even she, a legendary figure who had just been promoted to the second seed of the top 10, had to feel inferior in front of him. Every time she comes to the Izakaya, sitting here and tasting the exquisite dishes he makes, she can actually gain a lot from it and benefit a lot. Maybe this is why Ryo Kobayashi likes this Izakaya. Time fleeting. After a long period of slow roasting with fruit wood smoke, when it comes to beef on the bacon rack, most of the fat has been baked into the meat. You can smell the deliciousness of beef and the smoky smell of charcoal fire. Even Kobayashi Gentian, who is very close at hand, has an appetite. Then a few drops of lemon juice were poured on the beef, and the alluring aroma burst out in an instant. Wisps of hot air filled with the smell of smoke and meat kept curling up in the air. Gradually, the smoked beef on the bacon rack became so attractive. Next to him, Xiaolin Ringtong couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Those golden eyes filled with greed were just staring at the smoked beef that was about to be finished in front of them. Finally, with an elegant salt sprinkling motion, it comes to a complete end. The last dish, the smoked beef, is finally finished. Kobayashi Gentian couldn't wait to see the plate of freshly baked smoked beef in front of him, and he couldn't help but feel even more excited. After that, she quickly took her chopsticks, picked up a small piece of beef, and couldn't help but eat it. Just entered. I just feel like this smoked meat very tender, not as rotten as expected, with a smoky flavor and a light woody aroma. The beef tastes unique. Oh my. See, the smoked beef is first cut into neat and clean pieces. It is then sprinkled with a layer of secretly prepared foundation composed of more than 10 kinds of spices and smoked. Among them, 2 spices are the best for removing the fishy smell of beef and increasing the aroma of beef. One is grass fruit, and the other, is it shanae? Anyway, the real flavor comes from the hour-long slow fire smoke. You also need to apply sauce from time to time during this period to add moisture and flavor to the meat. That's why you only need to cut a small piece of beef and put it in your mouth. The delicious meaty aroma mixed with the original taste of smoke is enough to make you have endless aftertaste. After swallowing and savoring the taste, Ringtong Kobayashi said excitedly, there is no doubt that the last plate of smoked beef in front of her really surprised her. Chapter 3 reached the achievement of 1,000 orders and unlocked new features. In many beef dishes, the smoked beef made by Zhang Fan is a masterpiece, especially when the salt is sprinkled at the end. The salt has also been smoked, so the overall taste is round and smooth. And it is precisely with this feeling that Kobayashi Gentian can't stop at all. In the end, Kobayashi's appetite was completely whetted. No longer caring about the original elegant eating posture, he directly picked up the plate, quickly picked up the beef with chopsticks, and stuffed it into his mouth one by one. In a short while, she had eaten the whole plate of smoked beef. Oh, what a pleasure! Wipe your mouth. Kobayashi Gentian couldn't help but sigh deeply. Only when she was in an Izakaya could she truly appreciate how happy the life of a foodie was. Although she had relied on her own strength to become the second among the top 10, she still looked lazy. Within the academy, she showed complete indifference to many matters. After all, in her eyes, life should be about eating before sleeping, and eating after sleeping. Only such a carefree life can be considered happiness. Therefore, She actually prefers to stay in an izakaya compared to Tatsuki Academy. Just like today, I was happily drinking wine, eating meat, and chatting with a handsome shopkeeper Zhang. Certainly speaking of this shopkeeper Zhang, handsomeness is one thing, but the most important thing is his cooking skills, which are indeed superb. Just this smoked beef, even if Kobayashi Ratsuden had to learn it for more than 10 years, he would never be able to make such a perfect dish. This guy has always eluded her, but Ringtong Kobayashi couldn't tell what was wrong with him. Gulu 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 gulu. Finished the smoked beef. Kobayashi Ringtong picked up the wine bottle next to him again, poured the last remaining sake into the glass, and drank it all in one gulp. On the one hand, Zhang Fan cooks every dish perfectly, as if he can transform into thousands of flavors. On the other hand, he also made the sake so flavorful that after eating the smoked beef, drinking this mellow sake was the ultimate taste experience. Afterwards, maybe because he drank some wine, Kobayashi Ringtong's delicate face was like autumn leaves, a little red and a little shy. Shopkeeper Zhang, although I don't want to admit it, your cooking skills are beyond words. If you were in IU Academy, Xi would be nothing, he would be no match for you, and if only I had met you earlier, I wouldn't have been so obsessed with you. Put down the glass under the soft yellow light. Xiaolin Ringtong's face actually looked fair and fair. The whole person looks very refined and elegant, without even a trace of human fireworks. But at this moment, after hearing what Kobayashi Gentian said, Zhang Fan here just shrugged, appearing unconcerned, just assumed that she drank some wine and became a little confused. In fact, since the opening of the izakaya, his cooking skills have been recognized by many people. Therefore, he has heard a lot of words of praise and praise. Nah, shopkeeper Zhang, can you come and give me another bottle of sake? You still want to drink? Looking at the slightly drunk Xiaolin Gentian, Zhang Fan couldn't help but ask, right, such a nice wine, if you don't drink to your heart's content, you will have regrets in your life. Ringtong. Kobayashi looked helplessly at the empty bottle of wine on the table. He couldn't help but open his mouth slightly and stick out his tongue, as if he was still immersed in the aroma of sake. Then she raised her head for a moment, her bright eyes filled with mist, and stared at Zhang Fan intently. Zhang Fan felt very uncomfortable being stared at by her, so he could only follow her wishes and took out a bottle of Japanese sake from the wine cabinet and placed it in front of her. Seeing this, Kobayashi Gentian opened the cork with great joy and continued to taste it carefully. Boom, 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 boom. When hung on the wall as a wall clock, when the hour hand reached number 12, it was finally time for the izakaya to close. Looking at Xiaolin Gentian, who was already sleeping on the table, Zhang Fan pushed her helplessly and whispered in her ear, Gentian, it's already 12 o'clock at night, it's closing time for the izakaya here, so don't sleep anymore. Why, shopkeeper Zhang, how do you know the clone technique? You can actually change into several figures. Normally, those smart golden eyes at this moment, it became blurry and ethereal, like a pool of invisible spring water that no one could see through. But if you take a closer look, you can see that Kobayashi Ringtong's cheeks have been completely stained with blush, and he is very drunk. Then, with a dong sound, she laid down on the table again and fell asleep. Zhang Fan frowned deeply. He really didn't expect that Xiaolin Ringtong would be drunk. I knew it earlier. You should have brought another bottle of sake to her. Seeing this, Zhang Fan could only sigh helplessly, and then helped Xiaolin Gentian up. But in the end, the drunk Kobayashi Gentian actually opened his hands, and in a daze hugged Zhang Fan's arm, sticking to him tightly. Hiss, it's terrible. Feeling the soft touch, Zhang Fan was immediately stunned. He lowered his head slightly and looked at Xiaolin Gentian lying in his arms. All you can see are those long eyelashes, that pretty red face, and that pretty way of smacking your lips while sleeping. It really does have a different kind of charm. Gentian, I'll help you go to rest. Yes, I'll help you. The confused Kobayashi Gentian just responded. In the end, Zhang Fan had no choice but to use the princess hug method, carrying Ringtong Kobayashi to the room on the third floor of the izakaya, gently placing her on the bed, and then covering her with a quilt. At this moment, Xiaolin Ringtong was lying on the bed with his eyes squinted and sleeping peacefully, and that gentle gasp and faint smile seemed to indicate that she was having a very beautiful dream. I slept very soundly. Seeing that particularly pretty sleeping face, Zhang Fan inevitably became more and more fascinated as he looked at it. Finally, he regained consciousness for a moment, stood up quickly, and began to leave the room with gentle steps. Ling dong, today's Izakaya sales exceeded 500,000 yen, and we will be rewarded with 50 food coins, Ling Dong. Since the opening of the Izakaya, the host has finally reached the achievement of 1,000 orders. The check-in function is unlocked today, Ling Dong. Do you want to sign in? At this time, as the Izakaya closed, the system's beep sounded loudly in Zhang Fan's mind. Is the sign-in function unlocked? Hearing this, Zhang Fan was a little confused. Chapter 4 New Kitchenware, New Dishes. Humanity, is it really possible to travel through time? When faced with this problem, Zhang Fan, who in the past would firmly give an answer, impossible, but life, sometimes, everything is full of surprises. Even he himself never thought that time travel, a bloody plot that is only common in online novels, could actually happen to him. Think about the beginning when facing this strange world. He experienced fear, confusion, and relief. Finally, with the idea of taking care of things once they come, he started running an izakaya in this food street. It was at that time that he accidentally awakened the system, and this system is actually highly bound to the izakaya. Sometimes some tasks will be released, such as increase the daily sales of your izakaya, earn good reviews from diners, create new dishes, break through the previous passenger flow. Anyway, in this period of time as a shop owner and chef, Zhang Fan can complete these tasks issued by the system through his own efforts, and then receive corresponding rewards. Now, after a month of hard work, Zhang Fan's home wine shop finally achieved 1,000 orders today and successfully unlocked the check-in function of the system. This also means that starting from this day, he can check into the system once every day before the izakaya is open to receive rewards. As for what the system rewards, roughly speaking, it can also be divided into 4 major categories: menu, ingredients, kitchenware, cooking skills. These 4 major categories can be further subdivided into several smaller categories, such as the broad category of recipes can be subdivided into many subcategories such as Chinese cuisine, Japanese cuisine, French cuisine, molecular cuisine, etc. Ingredients can also be subdivided into staple foods: meat, fish, beans, eggs, vegetables, milk, oils, fruits, etc. So Zhang Fan, who was slightly awake, quickly chose to sign in. Ling Dong, host, successfully signed in once. Ling Dong. 4. This sign-in, the host will receive 1 set of exquisite and kitchen utensils and a new recipe for 1,000 flour cake. Ling Dong. Post. A new mission. Ask the host to increase the daily customer flow of the izakaya to more than 50 people within 24 hours. You will be rewarded after completing the task. Good kitchen knife. For chefs, it is actually very important. After all, some ingredients have very strange shapes just on the surface. Just processing them requires more than half an hour. My wrists are sore and my waist can't support them, and as long as you have a sharp and tough kitchen knife in hand, you can often get twice the result with half the effort. Not only does it save trouble, but it can also improve the taste of the entire dish and make the ingredients more flavorful. The design inspiration of this recently acquired exquisite and kitchenware comes from the moment when a peacock opens and closes its tail, which is very ornamental. Certainly looking good is secondary. Whether it is suitable for use or not is the key point of this set of kitchen utensils. The material used in this set of exquisite and kitchen utensils is BG42 steel, a material specially researched for the aerospace industry. This kind of steel itself uses double-layer vacuum melting, so the steel is very clean. Its uniqueness lies in the addition of vanadium. Vanadium enhances the wear resistance of steel and maintains the sharpness of the blade, so it has very strong corrosion resistance, is not easy to curl, and can cut hard bones, etc. And this set of kitchen utensils has 7 pieces in total, including cleaver, slicing knife, little kitchen knife, fruit knife, kitchen scissors, all-purpose knife, civil and military sword. Although these kitchen knives have different blade shapes, they are all kinds of weird, but the blade of each knife has a unique musical note design. The black and white classic and versatile style makes every kitchen knife look special. At the same time, the handle of the knife is made of traditional bloodwood satin. Beautiful color, durability, stability and gorgeous texture. These 4 things are the characteristics of bloodwood satin. All in all, this kitchenware set is called the Charm of Birds. It is definitely not the kind of magical kitchen utensil that can restore the original taste of ingredients, nor is it the magical effect of recognizing the owner by dripping blood. But for Zhang Fan now, this set of kitchen utensils appeared just in time. Then it's the new recipe, 1,000-layer pancakes, as a very common type of cake in the north of China. Of course, nowadays, This kind of 1,000-layer cake can be found everywhere regardless of region, even in a country like Neon Country. There are some places that specialize in making layer cakes. However, if you really want to say it, the most authentic taste of this 1,000-layer cake is from Shandong in Henan. It is the most delicious and classic. The method can be said to be simple or complex. Wrap the outer skin of the cake with dough, and there are dozens of distinct layers inside. Bake it over a fire until the skin is golden, crispy, soft and moist. In other words, the reason why it is simple is that you only need to mix simple ingredients to make pancakes, and that's it. But this is a big skill. Just rolling out the pie crust until it is fine and non-sticky is enough to stump many chefs. Therefore, 1,000-layer cake is different from other cakes just like its name. It has a golden and oily surface. When you take a bite, you will find that there are layers of layers inside, which will surprise you in an instant. Moreover, there are some with beef, some with minced pork, some with leeks, some with chopped green onion. But no matter how you put it, the texture you eat every bite will definitely make people feel amazing! Exclamation mark. In fact, Zhang Fan in his previous life knew a lot of cooking methods, and he can even make the 1,000-layer pancake snacks that he sees every day with his eyes closed. But on the one hand, the recipes provided by the system are actually optimized. Every procedure and every detail of the dish is clearly recorded, and even any defects and precautions will be noted one by one. On the other hand, these recipes are provided by the system no matter how difficult it is, no matter how complicated the process is. In fact, Zhang Fan doesn't need to spend time and energy to learn. He just needs to click the virtual button of receive in his mind, and he can master it directly. Therefore, in just a moment, Zhang Fan mastered the perfect method of making this kind of 1,000-layer cake. Very good. It seems that the first time you sign in, you will get a lot of rewards. In this way, the task of increasing the customer flow of the Izakaya to more than 50 people tomorrow should be easily accomplished. A set of exquisite and kitchenware, a new recipe for puff pastry. Such a reward is indeed somewhat unexpected for the current Zhang Fan. Then, feeling slightly tired, he couldn't help but stretch. Then he suppressed the little excitement in his heart, took a bath first, and then fell asleep on the bed in another room. At this point, the entire Izakaya was speechless today. Chapter 5. Time flies. The night gradually receded. The sun shines in the sky again, adding a bit of noise to this peaceful world. Kobayashi Gentian woke up in a daze. When he opened his eyes, he saw that the scene in front of him was unfamiliar. He couldn't help but sit up quickly, and then stayed stunned for a long time. Blame me. I drank too much last night. Covering his head, recalling bits and pieces of last night, when Kobayashi Ringtong realized something, his face couldn't help but blush slightly with embarrassment. Then, she clutched the quill tightly, but she felt a particularly fragrant and warm smell in the air. Even though she was in a strange environment, it didn't make her feel dangerous. On the contrary, she felt a sense of excitement. You know, this is the first time in her life that she has spent the night at someone else's house, and the person is a damn handsome man. Therefore, she was feeling a little disturbed after all. Well, what's wrong with me? Finally, Kobayashi Gentian sighed deeply. She has always known that this hotel owner is by no means an ordinary man. The world that belongs to him, the stage that belongs to him, is destined to be very vast, and it cannot be accommodated by this Izakaya. Even not exaggerating, if he stays here all his life and runs this Izakaya silently, he will profoundly affect this world and this great era of cooking in the future. And don't I admire such a person very much? And don't I have a little bit of admiration in my heart? Crunch. That's when Zhang Fan, who woke up early, gently opened the door of this room, and when he heard the slight sound of the door opening, Kobayashi Gentian, who was having random thoughts, quickly lifted up the quilt and got in again, pretending to fall asleep. After closing the door again and walking into the room, Zhang Fan couldn't help but have a faint smile on his face when he saw Gentian Kobayashi on the bed. Mock up, pretending to be asleep or not, can you hide it from me? Gentian, wake up quickly, the sun is almost hitting your butt. Immediately, Zhang Fan quietly came to the bedside and called softly. Kobayashi Ringtong was still unresponsive, his eyes were always tightly closed, and even his breathing rate was very steady, as if he was asleep. Take a closer look. That long blood-red hair, the clouds spread out, and even though he pretended to be sleeping, he still couldn't erase the cloud-like emotion between his eyebrows and eyes. At the same time, a ray of sunshine outside the window happened to fall on her face, making her even more adorable. Zhang Fan couldn't help but look a little stunned, until he knew that his calling could not make Xiaolin Ringtong wake up on purpose. He could only stretch out 2 fingers and pinch her beautiful nose. Well, Kobayashi Gentian felt uncomfortable holding back. She had no choice but to open her bright eyes and gently pat away the hands that were teasing her. Woke up, Zhang Gentian's pretty face turned slightly red. She glanced at Zhang Fan secretly, then lowered her head and muttered, "Shopkeeper Zhang, I really bothered you this time. Fine, you don't have to care, you have to blame me for this. I knew you liked to drink unscrupulously at the Izakaya, but I didn't stop you. In the end, you ended up drunk in the Izakaya. Fortunately, there are many empty rooms on the 3rd floor. It's totally fine for you to sleep here for one night." Seeing the shy Zhang Gentian, Zhang Fan just smiled softly and replied nonchalantly, "Right, thank you." Hearing this, Zhang Ringtong inadvertently showed a smile on his face. After that, Zhang Fan stood up for a moment and continued in a somewhat vague voice, "Since you're awake, wash up quickly and leave. After all, my Izakaya is closed during the day, so you can't stay here." Let me go." When Kobayashi Gentian heard this, he immediately sat up. "Yes, let you stay one night. That's because you were drunk and had no choice. Now that you're awake, why are you still here?" Zhang Fan, who was just about to leave, turned around and was startled when he heard Zhang Gentian's voice. "Damn it, this Gentian, shouldn't you be relying on me? At least, you have to let me have breakfast at your place, right?" After saying this, Zhang Ringtong stared at Zhang Fan deeply with expectant eyes. As a result, after seeing Zhang Fan's lack of reaction, she felt a little disappointed. She kept thinking to herself, she just wanted to have breakfast with him, and this was not okay. Breakfast, it's not impossible. It just so happens that I have just developed a new dish. When the time comes, you can try it a little and give your evaluation." After saying that, Zhang Fan turned around and left the room regardless of Zhang Gentian's next reaction. "What, did you agree to let me eat, and you want to make new dishes?" Hearing this, Zhang Ringtong's eyes immediately lit up. She quickly stood up and followed him closely. Time fleeting in the kitchen of the Izakaya, Zhang Fan, who was preparing to make layer cakes, started mixing the noodles, but I saw that he first prepared 2 kinds of flour, 63 grams of low-gluten flour and 42 grams of high-gluten flour. Then he added the low-gluten flour with hot water of 99 degrees Celsius, then stirred quickly with chopsticks, and then started kneading. After cooling down, then put 20 degrees Celsius room temperature water, add high-gluten flour and continue kneading. After the 2 batters are slightly formed, mix the 2 doughs together to become a new dough. In this way, the crust of the 1000-layer cake is this semi-hot noodle. The so-called semi-hot noodles have the softness of hot noodles and the gluten of cold water. The dough mixed in this way is very suitable for making scallion pancakes and 1000-layer pancakes. It has a very soft texture, can be divided into many layers, and will not harden after cooling. But it was obvious that even if he used semi-hot noodles, Zhang Fan didn't want to use the usual method to make 1000-layer cakes. After taking out the dough, Zhang Fan took a deep breath, then his eyes became sharp, and he kneaded the dough with one hand. Then use one finger to support the dough, and start to rotate quickly with the finger as the center point, and under the force of this rotation, a large piece of dough slowly turned into a thin piece of dough. "What? This? How is this possible?" Seeing this, Zhang Gentian on the side was startled. She had never seen such a formation in her life. After all, how could anyone make noodles in this way? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Gradually, under the action of this rotating force, the dough continues to become thinner and larger. Even at the end, it can be seen that the diameter of the entire dough exceeds 3 meters in its thickness. It is definitely not visible with the naked eye, but it is definitely thinner than paper, as if it can be pierced with a light poke with chopsticks. Although the thinner the crust of the puff pastry, the better, but making such a thin crust requires very high skills and experience on the one hand, and patience on the other hand. Apparently, after seeing this, Ringtong Kobayashi almost couldn't sit still. Chapter 6000-layer cake, really a 1000-layer cake. After the dough is done, the next focus is the fillings for the puff pastry. Put the minced pork into a clean ceramic bowl, then add the minced ginger, minced chives, pepper powder, sugar, cooking wine, edible salt and other seasonings in sequence. Then stir evenly. You can say that 1000-layer cake, it's so simple. There is no need for 2 high-end ingredients, just a flour, pork, chopped green onions, etc. that you see every day are enough. Finally, A ghee needs to be made. The function of ghee is to pour it on the surface of the pie crust and the meat filling after the puff pastry is completed, adding a bit of flavor and crispiness. Zhang Fan continued to take a small bowl, put 10 grams of flour, then a little salt to taste, and finally added lard. The reason why lard is used instead of other vegetable oils is that lard itself is good for shortening, so it is very good to use ghee to make this shortening. After adding lard using chopsticks, stir evenly. Finally, prepare the filling in ghee and set aside. Of course, it is also possible to put ghee directly into the fillings, but Zhang Fan did not do that. Very good. Next, it's time to witness the miracle. Zhang Fan has finished all this work. He closed his eyes tightly again and began to adjust his breathing rate. After he calmed down completely, he began to fold a dough with a diameter of more than 3 meters. There are usually 2 ways to make cakes, either by folding, just like folding a quilt, layer by layer. The more you fold, the more layers you will make. And in this way of stacking, the shapes of the finished products are different. For example, there are round ones, there are rectangular ones, there are square ones too. Therefore, the advantage is that this shape can be stacked in your own way. As for another way is to make it into a circular shape. It is not stacked layer by layer, but after spreading the filling, start rolling from one side of the dough, rolling it from one end to that end, and then closing the 2 ends. After rolling, finally, roll the dough from one end of the noodles into a round shape, then use the rolling pin again to roll it into a pancake shape. Obviously, Zhang Fan used the first method. After making the cake, you can bake it in the pan. First, after the pan is heated, add an appropriate amount of cooking oil. When the oil temperature is about 60% hot, put in the prepared pancakes, then keep frying over medium-low heat until both sides are golden brown. In this way, the 1,000-layer cake that seems simple to make but is very complicated is completed. Take a closer look. Freshly baked puff pastry. It still has a very high temperature and exudes a strong aroma of cake all the time. Although this kind of 1,000-layer pancake contains chopped green onion, the dark stuff on the outside looks like black sesame seeds. It is difficult to attract the appetite of diners just from its simple appearance. However, Ringtong Kobayashi, who knew that this was Zhang Fan's cooking style, was full of expectations. I eat now. After the rest swallowed, Kobayashi Gentian couldn't wait. His eyes left the 1,000-layer cake, and then looked up at Zhang Fan. Sure. Zhang Fan just nodded. After getting Zhang Fan's consent, Kobayashi Ringtong excitedly picked up a small layer cake. However, the moment she touched the 1,000-layer cake with both hands, her watery eyes widened, filled with a sense of disbelief. This feeling, am I right? How come the crust of this kind of 1,000-layer cake is so thin? You can take a guess. How many layers of crust did I use for the puff pastry? Seeing the unbelievable Kobayashi Gentian, Zhang Fan seemed to be able to predict this scene, so he asked in a mysterious manner, could it be? Yes, it's the 100th floor. No. If such a thin pie crust is stacked to a height that can barely be held by both hands, at least there must be more than 500 layers of pie crust. Hearing this, Kobayashi Ringtong began to stare at the 1,000-layer cake in his hand. After pondering for a while, she came up with an answer that she thought was very pertinent. 1,000-layer cake. I make layer cakes. After hearing this, Zhang Fan shook his head, smiled, and said again, 1,000 floors. You actually used 1,000 layers of pie crust to make 1,000 funny cake. Confused, shocked, crazy, and finally, numbness. Kobayashi Ringtong's mood kept changing just because of the 1,000-layer cake in front of him. But no matter what, the 1,000-layer cake Zhang Fan made this time simply subverted her knowledge and understanding of some dishes. After all, every type of puff pastry you see outside doesn't really require 1,000 layers of pie crust. The so-called 1,000 layers is just a name. The thickness of a piece of A4 paper is 0.104 millimeters. If it is stacked to 1,000 layers, the thickness will be 10.4 centimeters, and only by making the pie crust as thin as paper. No, because the meat filling is also added, its thickness must be several times, or even dozens of times, thinner than A4 paper, in order to make the 1,000 layers in front of you cake. That is to say, in this world, there are no chefs at all. I would be crazy enough to use 1,000 layers of pie crust to make a layered cake that can be held with both hands. But the Zhang Fan in front of him not only had this crazy idea, but more importantly, he actually did it. Theoretically, I used the layered crust principle, that is, dip some butter in the middle of each thin layer of crust and cut it. In this way, The butter inside will slowly melt during the heating process, the water in it will generate steam, and the gradually rising strength of this steam will be used to spread each thin layer of pie crust to form a layered thin structure. Then, if you were better at math, you should be able to understand that I use the duplication method. After each folding, roll it out and fold it again, so that the number of layers of dough can grow exponentially on a cubic scale. Certainly, initial dough, there is no butter on the top and bottom, so every time you fold it the next time, the two layers of pie crust will merge into one. Anyway, when you first fold it, the number of layers is 3 times 3 equals 9, minus 2, which is 7 layers, and for the second folding, the number of layers is 7 times 3 equal to 21, minus 2 for 19 layers. At last, it's the sixth fold. The final number of layers will be 487 times 3 equal to 1464, and then subtract 2 to get 1462 layers. Kobayashi Gentian. Oh, this is a mathematical calculation problem. It was difficult for her to figure it out for a while, but the last 1462 layers, she, Xiaoling Ringtuang, could clearly hear it. Be good. Isn't this too outrageous? This kind of 1,000-layer cake, the number of layers of cake required is not exactly 1,000 layers, but floor 1462. Chapter 7. This is the only one in the world. As a foodie, Kobayashi Gentian likes to eat, but liking is only a basic condition. On this basis, the further requirement is to know how to eat. Understand, it's a particular word. Understand the ingredients, various cooking methods, and the food culture and taste habits of different countries, cities, and regions. And also know how different the same dish will be in the hands of different chefs. After all, it is in the heart of Kobayashi Ryan. She is always interested in unknown foods and cuisines, and this mentality, this deep love for eating, has been silently affecting her life. She can run a long distance or climb a higher mountain for an unknown ingredient, and she doesn't feel tired. Therefore, this is why she has a laid-back personality. But at such an age, he has become a master of all kinds of rare ingredients from various countries, and he is now the second among the top 10 in Totsuki Academy. In fact, in the eyes of Kobayashi Gentian, the most important thing about any dish in this world is the taste. Take the 1,000-layer cake, for example. The crispy texture is the most important thing, and the use of 1462 layers of cake crust is inevitably meant to attract attention, but the smell of green onions, cakes, and meat in the air successfully aroused the greed in her stomach. So I was shocked she didn't hesitate at all and took a bite of the 1,000-layer cake under Zhang Fan's gaze. As soon as I took a bite, it actually made a crunching sound. Obviously, this is the friction between the more than 1,000 layers of pie crust and the teeth, and the sound of the air being forced out. Tasted first. It's the 1462 layers of crispy crust. It melts in your mouth instantly, giving you an extremely wonderful taste experience, and this crispy texture also makes people feel very happy, as if they can feel its deliciousness during chewing afterwards. Kobayashi Ryan chewed hard with his teeth, but unexpectedly discovered that the thin and crispy pie crust was actually wrapped with a solid filling. Taking another bite, I tasted butter mixed in again. This rich layering immediately makes the entire simple 1,000-layer cake become quite delicious, and every time you stir it with your tongue, you can feel the layers of the puff pastry being cut in various directions. For a moment, the most original dough flavor hidden inside was revealed bit by bit. Then, well, there is no more. All I know is that this unique aroma and taste have always forced Kobayashi Renton to chew slowly. The increasingly rich aroma of chopped green onions began to intertwine with the aroma of the pie crust, coupled with the rich aroma of meat, and she immediately felt the true charm of this kind of 1,000-layer pancake. At this moment, all her worries seemed to be forgotten by her, leaving only this wonderful layer cake. Strangeness, small black particles scattered on a surface. It's not sesame, but a rare orchid seed seasoning. I see. In the process of making puff pastry, you only need to sprinkle the orchid seeds evenly on the dough, and then roll and fold it. When the crust is baked, the orchid seeds will have a crispy texture, which is a perfect match for the crispy crust and rich filling of the puff pastry. In other words, the addition of orchid seeds can further improve the taste of the millefeuille cake, and the unique fragrance of orchid seeds and the crispness of the millefeuille cake complement each other perfectly. Perfect. What a perfect match. This kind of ordinary layer cake is so surprising to me. After coming back to his senses, Kobayashi Ringtong couldn't help but sigh deeply to be able to push a humble snack like 1,000-layer cake to an unprecedented level. The shopkeeper Zhang in front of me is truly a rare culinary genius in the world. Shopkeeper Zhang, I dare say the 1,000-layer cake you made is the only one in the world. Why? What? A blessing. Ryan Kobayashi, can actually eat this kind of extremely crispy pancake snack in my life. I have no regrets in life. In the end, Kobayashi Gentian, who was eating the layer cake, did not forget to shoot a rainbow fart at Zhang Fan. Of course, these words are somewhat exaggerated, but all in all, this 1,000-layer pancake breakfast really shocked Kobayashi Ringtong. You're not bad either. Be able to rely on your own experience. Taste these little black particles sprinkled on the surface, not sesame but orchid seeds. Sure enough, as the second among the top 10 elites of Tatsuki Academy, you are not in vain. Zhang Fan, who was also eating the 1,000-layer pancake, just raised his head slightly and glanced at Zhang Gentian, and said calmly, I just accidentally learned about the existence of Lan Xiangzi once when I was hunting in the mountains. After getting Zhang Fan's approval, Xiaolin Ringtong's pretty little face turned red instantly, and she seemed to feel a little happy in her heart. No, a few compliments. Why are you blushing? Zhang Fan couldn't help but be a little stunned when he looked at Xiaolin Gentian, whose face was flushed. I thought to myself, it's really hard to guess a woman's thoughts. He just said that her strength is indeed worthy of the reputation of the second place among the top 10, but this sentence can also make her shy. Where is there? Kobayashi Gentian touched his hot face and then quibbled a little, but just when Zhang Fan wanted to tease her again, Xiaolin Ringtong suddenly turned serious and said, Shopkeeper Zhang, your cooking skills have always been recognized by me, but I still can't understand. Why don't you go to a broader platform? With your current strength, it is more than enough to be a chef in a 5-star hotel. However, as soon as he said this, Zhang Fan remained calm and ate the 1,000-layer cake in his hand immediately afterwards. He took out a clean napkin and wiped his mouth, and then his eyes were fixed on Regent Kobayashi. Shopkeeper, why are you looking at me like that? Being stared at by Zhang Fan, Xiaolin Ringtong became increasingly uncomfortable and quickly turned away. Gentian, what is your pursuit? Zhang Fan looked back and asked, No, what do I want to pursue? The most I want to do in this life is explore unknown ingredients, taste all the dishes in this world, and continue to enjoy the fun of food. That's all. Xiaolin Ringtong was stunned for a moment, and then answered Zhang Fan's question truthfully. Actually, I used to be a chef in a 5-star hotel, but that kind of life is too boring, so now I run the Izakaya alone. Zhang Fan said calmly again. Upon hearing this, Kobayashi Gentian was completely confused again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8: The Best Chef. In this world there is no shortage of excellent chefs of all kinds, and there are endless ones from all eras. Especially with the rapid development of the modern catering industry, people's requirements for food are definitely getting higher and higher, and they are becoming more and more tasteful. Therefore, an excellent chef can have a very high status and influence. At the same time, there is another fact that cannot be denied. That is, in the pursuit of the fast food era, many chain catering companies have begun to establish exclusive kitchens, then unified cooking prep, unified delivery. Even the workmanship and procedures of cooking dishes must be unified to ensure consistent taste. And the dishes are standardized. Many chefs who are motivated by profit have gradually abandoned innovation and begun to cook according to standardized procedures. On the one hand, it saves time and effort. On the other hand, it is true that the power of individuals is extremely weak. But such standardization of catering can achieve rapid promotion and occupy a dominant position in the market. Anyway, in Kobayashi Gentian's cognition, this is an era that belongs to cooks, and it is also the most gloomy era in the culinary world. Of course, I know that Zhang Fan was once a chef in a 5-star hotel. In the end, she was able to willingly give up all of this and run the Izakaya alone. Such deeds naturally made her admire her even more. This shows that Zhang Fan will never be the kind of person who loves fame and covets fame and wealth. I really like cooking. I am unwilling to be bound by various standardized things in the cooking world. What an amazing cook. Therefore, for a moment, Zhang Fan's image became particularly tall in her heart, and if you say it again, these are her thoughts at this time. If Zhang Fan finds out, I'm afraid he will definitely laugh. In his previous life, he just chose to resign from a 5-star hotel because he didn't want to live a boring life of 2 points and 1 line just like myself now, running an izakaya. Then he would only be busy between 7 p.m. and 12 p.m. for the rest of the day. The rest of the time he could basically choose to lie down and do whatever he wanted. As for what I hate about today's culinary world, it's not people who are greedy for fame and fortune. All I can say is, Kobayashi Gentian, you are thinking too much. Time slowly passing. This breakfast ended in a warm atmosphere after all, and this kind of milfeu cake that subverted common sense naturally left a deep impression on Kobayashi Gentian. She was very lucky that she was thick-skinned enough, and she forced herself to stay here and have breakfast in an almost playful way, so that she had the opportunity to taste such delicious layer pancakes. In the end, the very satisfied Kobayashi Ringtong stood in front of the izakaya with some reluctance. Shopkeeper, I'm so grateful for this reception. After saying that, she bowed to Zhang Fan to express her gratitude. It doesn't have to be this way, just made some layer cakes. What's more, since the opening of my izakaya, you have been coming here almost every night to patronize my business, so you can be considered a regular customer, and the relationship between you and me is not as strange as other people's, Zhang Fan said with a smile, and then looked at Zhang Gentian with deep meaning. This girl is indeed very casual in terms of personality and is always carefree. After these days of getting along with her, although his friendship with her is still not very good, the wonderful spiritual connection has made his relationship with Kobayashi Gentian very subtle. Especially looking at Kobayashi Gentian like this, he should have a little fondness for him, but she may not have noticed it herself. After all, her extremely gluttonous personality has always covered up everything about her feelings. In her eyes, what is more important than eating? However, she didn't understand that her appetite had been conquered by Zhang Fan, but her heart, could it still be far away? Shopkeeper, if you say that again, then, I'm going to blush again. From Zhang Fan's words, I learned that my relationship with him was far closer than that of many people. Kobayashi Gentian's heartbeat started to accelerate. Bang bang bang, and he felt like he was pounding instantly. Alright, I won't talk to you anymore. Then, she pretended to be calm and hurriedly said goodbye to Zhang Fan. After all, if she stayed like this, she didn't know if she would actually blush later. So after saying these words, she turned around and left the izakaya quickly with light steps. Why, finally gone. Now, my izakaya is much quieter again. At this moment, Zhang Fan, who was standing in front of the izakaya as he looked at the figure that was getting away, could only sigh deeply, and just when he was about to return to the izakaya, he found that the proprietress of the Haragoto Western-style restaurant next to him, Kikuchi Sanako, was standing there blankly, looking at him. Yo, good morning, Miss Kikuchi. Seeing this, Zhang Fan had no choice but to stop and say hello to her. Impression before the opening of his izakaya. The Chunguding restaurant next door already exists. This restaurant is completely different from his izakaya in terms of its style and marketing line, even its decoration, service level, etc. First, Chungguo Pavilion specializes in Western cuisine, and the diners who come here to eat are often the elite of this society. There are almost no ordinary office workers, housewives, students, teachers and other groups at the bottom of society, but even though the service targets are all a group of top-level people, and the price of each dish is ridiculously expensive, the business of this spring fruit pavilion has always been very good. Think about it too. This is the proprietress of Chungguo Pavilion. Mujiazu Yuanguo was the second among the top 10 heroes of Yuan. Her strength and talent can indeed support the operation of this Chunguding Western-style restaurant. She even relies on her own ability to make this Western-style restaurant bigger and stronger step by step. Hello. Unexpectedly, Mujiazu Yuanguo was faced with Zhang Fan's proactive greeting, but he was so frightened that he took a few steps back. After nodding and saying hello to him, he actually ran back. Such a reaction naturally made Zhang Fan a little confused. It's weird, I'm obviously so handsome and not very scary. Why did you run back when you saw me talking? Regarding this situation, Zhang Fan could only shrug his shoulders and feel a little depressed. However, don't look at his izakaya, it is right next to Haragoto. But he and the proprietress Mujiazu Yuanguo have almost never met. The reason is that the business hours of the izakaya are from 7 p.m. to 12 p.m. However, The business hours of the Chungoori Western-style restaurant in Makichinka are from 9 o'clock during the day to 6 o'clock in the evening. The operating hours of the two restaurants are completely staggered. Therefore, Zhang Fan, who was depressed, quickly adjusted his mentality. He returned to the Izakaya and didn't take the matter of Kikuchichi Sono to his heart at all. Chapter 9: The Girl with the Tongue of God. Early morning, the air is always so fresh, especially in the spacious courtyard. When the elegant fragrance of flowers and grass flows into the nose along with the breeze, the whole person will be intoxicated. At this moment, Nakari Irina was sitting straight with her eyes closed. With the ability of God's tongue, she defeated all the heroes a few days ago and won the 10th spot among the top 10. Although this seed is at the bottom of the 10 elite council, it has no right to speak. However, she is the only elementary school student to serve as one of the top 10, so she has a bright future. At the same time, in her body, the blood of the Nakari family flows. Therefore, in the entire Tatsuki Academy, no one dares to look down upon her, and no one dares to provoke her. Since the moment of birth, Irina has a taste ability that is different from ordinary people. The perception and sensitivity of ingredients and flavors are far beyond the understanding of ordinary people. She can even be so exaggerated as to taste the taste of various salts one by one, so that she can immediately determine the composition and origin of these salts. It is this ability of hers that has reached a realm that no one can understand. It is like the arrival of a god, so she is praised by people as God's tongue, and by the power of the tongue of God at a young age, Irina became famous in the food industry, and many restaurants would invite her to serve as supervisors. At the same time, there are also many chefs who often invite her to try out their dishes. After all, if he can be recognized by this girl with the tongue of God, then he is destined to be an excellent chef that no one can challenge in the entire cooking world. To know, you can question a lot of things, but when it comes to gourmet cuisine, you can never question the tongue of God. So Irina now in the culinary world, he also has extremely high authority sometimes. Her words can really affect the life or death of a chef or even a restaurant. Miss Irina, this is the 120-year-old Tokyo Ramen Kikujikan. They make tonkatsu lobster ramen. Now the bitch on the side. Oh, no, it's the secretary, Hisako Nido. Seeing that Irina remained indifferent, he could only lean down slightly and whisper a reminder in her ear. I see. Irina opened her bright eyes and was about to try the food. Then she lowered her head and looked at a bowl of ramen in front of the table. If you look closely, you can see that although this is a bowl of lobster ramen, it perfectly combines traditional oriental noodles with Western seafood. In this delicacy, the bright red lobster complements the golden noodles perfectly. As for the garnished green onions, kelp, fish balls, etc., they not only add rich colors and layers, but also make the whole bowl of ramen more nutritious. After that, I withdrew my gaze. Irina nodded inevitably. As expected of a century-old restaurant, the ingredients used in this ramen are indeed carefully selected. Yes, Miss Irina, we use distilled water to knead the noodles, so the noodle's own flavor will be purer. In many cases, distilled water cannot actually be used as a water source for dough mixing, because its purity, mineral content and other factors may affect the production and texture of gluten, but in some special cases, such as when making gluten-free food or when a highly pure water source is required, it can stop it. These theoretical things, you don't need to explain everything clearly in front of me. After all, the quality of any dish or the quality of any ingredient cannot escape the analysis of my God's tongue. Seeing the ramen chef of the Tokyo Ramen Kikujikan in front of her trying to explain how to make this lobster ramen in front of her, Irina quickly dissuaded him. Then she took a deep breath, then took the chopsticks, first picked up the lobster floating in the noodle soup, and tasted it carefully. That fresh lobster meat is expected of being carefully selected. The meat is very plump, delicate and tender during the cooking process. The lobster meat is carefully cooked by the chef, fully absorbing the flavors of various seasonings so much so that you can feel the mellow seafood taste in every bite, as if you are in the blue ocean, swimming freely. Next, after eating the lobster, it's time to taste the noodles, with a sound of suck, suck, suck. Each noodle quickly slipped into Irina's small mouth. Really use distilled water and the noodles come out in terms of taste. It will be purer and more delicate, perfectly blended with the deliciousness of lobster. Every bite is a kind of enjoyment, and people can't help but indulge in it. Finally, there's the noodle soup. The unique sauce, mellow cooking wine, delicious tonkatsu broth and other seasonings are actually intertwined with each other. making the whole bowl of ramen taste richer and more varied, and the flavors of these seasonings are always complementing each other. It makes the deliciousness of the lobster more prominent, and also makes the noodles richer in texture. All in all, this is indeed a bowl of high-quality tonkatsu-esque lobster ramen. Gradually Irina entered a magical realm because of the taste of this bowl of ramen, but in a bottomless ocean, she transformed into a mermaid, and then a big red lobster was chasing her from behind. Helpless, Irina, who turned into a mermaid, could only shake the fish tail and keep swimming forward. As a result, at the critical moment when she was caught up by the lobster, the big lobster shook its claws violently and twisted its tail as if dancing. Then Irina discovered this lobster he's not chasing her, but trying to show his favor to her. A piece of meat fell out of its pincers, which seemed to be a gift to her, so she had to catch it carefully and put it in her mouth. Suddenly, a delicious taste quickly spread in the mouth. Then, the big lobster moved again, as if waiting for Irina's response. She could only reach out her hand again, pull its pincers to interact, and start a subtle dance in the ocean. In the process, she not only tasted delicious food, but also experienced the fun of interaction with food. Ran. Irina woke up. The absurd scene of dancing with lobsters that he had just imagined in his mind disappeared in an instant. She first rubbed her temples, and then tried to analyze the bowl of tonkatsu lobster ramen with her god's tongue. Then she seemed to realize something and couldn't help but become furious. Asshole, is this your intention? The next moment, she actually put the entire bowl of scalding lobster ramen on the head of the chef. Chapter 10 Muji Uzuhingo's Invitation. Sorry, Miss Irina. The chef didn't care at all about how embarrassed he was. He knelt down directly in front of Nakiri Irina and kowtowed heavily to express his apology. You feel what you did, can you atone for your sins just by saying sorry? However, facing this chef, Irina's eyes are still as sharp as a sword, and her whole body exudes a frightening temperament. If I remember correctly, the business of your ramen kokujukin hasn't been very good recently, right? After all, 120 years have passed, and the original ramen recipe can no longer adapt to today's cooking era. Or maybe you feel that this lobster ramen can't really satisfy my god's tongue? So, that's why you have a wrong idea. How dare you add an addictive poppy shell to the noodle soup? What? Poppy shell? You really deserve to die? How dare you use such despicable means to taint Miss Irina's god's tongue? On the side, Fei Shasha was absolutely furious. He quickly stepped forward and kicked the ramen chef hard, then cursed angrily. Never mind, Fei Shang, a person with such a bad heart is not worthy of being a chef. After saying that, Nakiri Irina ignored the chef and left without looking back. Obviously her words this directly ruined the chef's future career as a chef, and the 120-year-old Tokyo ramen kokujukin is destined to be completely lost in the long river of history. Seeing Irina leaving, Nido Higasako felt very upset. After kicking her again, she followed Irina closely and left together. Miss, I'm really sorry this time. If he had dared to do this at the beginning, he would definitely not have let him cook for you to try. Behind him, Fei Shasha was a little uneasy and worried. After hesitating for a while, she gritted her teeth and plucked up the courage to speak. Fei Shang, you don't have to apologize to me. After all, no one can predict this kind of thing. At this time, Irina, who was walking in front, suddenly stopped and turned back to look at Hisako. It was obvious that she didn't care much about this kind of thing. Then she brushed the hair in front of her forehead and asked, "What kind of food do you want to try next?" "Oh, let me see." Fei Shao was stunned for a moment before finally reacting. I quickly opened the itinerary about the food tasting in my hand and took a quick look at it. Miss, at 7 o'clock tonight, you have to go to a Western-style restaurant in Chunguding to try out the food. Fei Shasha then said calmly, Chungguo Pavilion, why does this restaurant feel so familiar to me? Hearing the name of this Western-style restaurant, Irina felt an unusually familiar feeling in her heart. Yes, miss, this Western-style restaurant is run by the former top 10 second-in-command Kikuchingo. Seeing Nakiri Irina's somewhat confused look, Hisako quickly continued to explain. We accepted her invitation a year ago and went to try some of her Western dishes. Yeah, I remembered. After trying her cooking, I gave it a very high rating, so the business of her Chunguding restaurant became booming for a time. After hearing Hisako's explanation, Irina finally slapped her head and suddenly realized, but then, she thought of something and couldn't help but frown. Strangeness, why? Is it that in just 1 year, she invites me to try cooking again? Well, I heard that her Spring Fruit Pavilion restaurant has not been very good recently, and even, is about to close down. Faye. Shasha scratched the back of his head and said awkwardly she always felt that this kind of thing was too nonsense after all. He was also the second among the top 10, and his overall ability is certainly nothing to say. Moreover, I once let Miss Irina try the food, and she received a high level of praise. The results of it, in just 1 year this Western-style restaurant that was once recognized by God's tongue is about to close down. Collapse. How? Is this possible, even? If it's a food street, the whole street is full of various restaurants, but with her ability as Mujiazi Yuanguo, she won't fall to this level so quickly, right? When she heard that Harogoro restaurant was in crisis of bankruptcy, Irina was so shocked that her jaw almost dislocated. Then, she realized that her behavior just now seemed a bit rude. So she pretended to cough twice and continued, "It's so, let's go over there tonight." "Okay miss, I will make arrangements right now." After finishing speaking, Nido Fisako retreated very wisely. Chunguo. Pavilion. Senior. Yuanguo, what's wrong with you? Irina, who was alone, remained frozen in place, looking a little dazed. Obviously, she is not very accepting of such ridiculous things. Night. It's finally here, but at this time, it was not yet 7 o'clock, so the Izakaya was not open yet. I saw Zhang Fan sitting by the window of the balcony on the second floor, slowly drinking a cup of scented tea, and then looking up to admire the beautiful view of the starry sky at night. This is his living habit. Whenever the Izakaya opens for business, he comes here to relax. Certainly more important, or is he someone who does not belong to this world? Therefore, I can't help but leave some time for myself to recall some past events from my past life. Time flies, unconsciously. It has been more than a month since I traveled to this world. When the rising moon shined through the window, it cast patches of light on Zhang Fan's handsome face. He couldn't help but straighten up, drink the cup of scented tea in his hand, and then slowly exhale the fragrant breath. At this moment, his eyes became firm. Although we don't know how much more will happen in the future, but he believes that with his own abilities and the help of the system, he will definitely stand at the top of the world, stand out from the crowd, and change this era of cooking. Then, he stretched his waist lazily and wanted to open the door for business. However, at this moment, he saw a luxurious black car parked in front of the Chungguding restaurant next door. Although Chungguding restaurant has never lacked such wealthy and prestigious diners, it is already 7 p.m., which is already past the opening hours. Logically speaking, the phenomenon of diners coming to the door should not exist, right? It turns out, it's her. Finally, when two figures got out of the black car, Zhang Fan was stunned. Chapter 11: The Butterfly Effect. Izakaya. Unlike ordinary pubs that only serve alcohol, they also provide quality meals, but it is different from ordinary snack bars. At night, you can even see everyone in the Izakaya drinking red and chatting happily. Chances are, you don't understand what these people are saying, but I can deeply appreciate the relaxation and fun of taking off the mask with the help of wine. At the same time, Zhang Fan's Izakaya, although the food is not as sophisticated and exquisite as a high-end restaurant, it is full of sincerity. First of all, the ingredients are very fresh. Zhang Fan's own cooking skills are also very good. From seasoning, cooking techniques to knife skills, fire control, etc., he has won the shock and recognition of diners. Most of the dishes he made looked ordinary, but it is like home cooking, giving diners a simple pleasure and satisfaction. At last, that's a very important point. No matter what kind of thing it is, even if it is a variety of dishes, the price is very cheap. For this reason, izakayas have gradually become a place for people to gather and chat with friends. Nearby students, company employees or friends often hold simple banquets in izakayas. Therefore, it is no exaggeration to say that if you sit in an izakaya, order a few plates of side dishes, warm up a bottle of wine and have a few drinks, then the trip will be worthwhile. Shopkeeper, a portion of tamagoyaki, good, hold on. When the sign light outside the door suddenly lights up in red, it means that the izakaya is finally open for business. The first diner who came in was a teacher from here. Unlike others who often come together in small groups, he often comes alone. Then I never drink. Every time I come, I just order 1 or 2 side dishes and leave in a hurry after eating. Tamagoyaki, the so-called jade, actually means egg. As a common dish in izakayas, It is obviously very popular at this time. Zhang Fan first prepared some required materials: egg, special mirin, Japanese soy sauce, stock, salt, sugar, wood. You like to add some cheese like you always do. Need. Not. Good. Then. Add some chopped green onions. Okay. After a simple conversation, Zhang Fan broke the eggs into a large bowl. Add seasonings such as nashi, mirin, soy sauce, chopped green onions, salt and sugar, and stir evenly. Immediately afterwards, pour the egg mixture into the saucepan. Heat over medium heat. After the egg liquid has solidified, use a spatula to roll up the egg roll from one side and continue heating until it is completely cooked. Finally, the simple tamagoyaki is completed. From the appearance, the tamagoyaki made by Zhang Fan is more golden in color, and it looks brighter under the soft light, which makes people's appetite increase at the first sight. After cutting it open, you can still see the cross-section of tamagoyaki, showing a delicate texture. The reason is that the protein inside the egg roll changes when heated, forming this unique texture. Take a bite. The texture of the whole tamagoyaki is very soft because of the beating and heating of eggs. Adding an appropriate amount of water, stock and other seasonings during this slow production process will inevitably make the egg rolls softer and more delicate. In short, the tamagoyaki in front of me, whether as a dinner or a snack at night, is endlessly memorable. Shopkeeper, I put all the money from tamagoyaki on the table. Okay, walk slowly. After finishing the tamagoyaki, the teacher took out the money from his pocket, paid the bill, and left in a hurry. Zhang Fan is naturally not surprised to see such a situation. He first collected the money on the table, and then wiped the table with a rag. After finishing, he sat at the front desk and continued to drink scented tea alone, looking a little happy. Really interesting, that arrogant girl with the tongue of God will actually appear in this way. After swallowing a sip of scented tea, the figure of Arena, who just got off the black car, suddenly appeared in my mind. Zhang Fan couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, and then sighed. In fact, ever since he traveled to this world, he has had many butterfly reactions. For example, encounter with Kobayashi Gentian. She fell in love with him instantly and had to come to the Izakaya almost every night, which made her waste even more time on the affairs of Tatsuki-ji. And Zhang Fan can also believe that under his influence, her life will definitely change in the future. Then it's the Haragoda of Kukuchinka. It's quite a coincidence that I was choosing a location to open an Izakaya next door to this spring fruit pavilion. There was originally a Japanese restaurant. However, due to poor management, it was reluctantly transferred to Zhang Fan, so it's this kind of unexpected coincidence let him become neighbors with Makuchichi Sanoka, the former second among the top 10, and now, Arena also made an unexpected appearance. Vaguely, Zhang Fan felt that her arrival this time would cause more butterfly effects. It will even change his Izakaya and have a more profound impact on her future life and the entire Tatsuki Academy. God's tongue? I wonder what kind of reaction you will have when you encounter the food I cook. Finally, after taking another sip of scented tea, Zhang Fan couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth and chuckled. At the same time, next door is the Chunggo Pavilion. The overall environment of this Western-style restaurant has a magnificent beauty. In the wide dining area, each dining table is rectangular. There are fewer tablewares on the table when dining than in Chinese dining, but beautiful flowers and exquisite candles are placed to embellish the table. Then, unlike in Izakaya with soft lighting, all the lights here are bright white, and a crisp white tablecloth, luxurious stitching, open floors, exquisite tableware, plus a peaceful atmosphere. These things together constitute the characteristics of this Chunggo Pavilion. The dining environment of this spring fruit pavilion is very relaxing. As soon as he came in, Fichao carefully looked at the surrounding environment, and was deeply shocked by every exquisite detail here. So, don't you think it's even weirder? How could such a restaurant fall into a state of poor management? Looking away, Arena said doubtfully. Arena, Fei, Sheng, both of you, it's been a long time since we last met. At this moment, Muji Uzinguo finally came out of the back kitchen. When she saw Arena and Hisako appearing at the spring fruit pavilion as expected, she couldn't help but look a little excited. Finally, she happily stepped forward and said hello to them all. Chapter 12: The Mysterious Chef from China. Chinese food. There are many cuisines. Western food is also divided into 6 major cuisines: French, British, Italian, German, American and Russian. Although Chunggo Pavilion is a Western-style restaurant, many of its signature dishes fall into the category of French and Italian cuisine. Maybe this is because Kukuchinka is the best at these two kinds of cuisine. Right. Soon, After exchanging a few words, Kikuchi prepared her most favorite dish, bouillabaisse, and asked Irina to start the process of tasting it. Bouillabaisse. This is a famous French seafood soup dish because it is cooked with a variety of fish, shellfish and spices. It is delicious and has a unique texture. It has always been favored by diners. At this moment, looking at this bowl of bouillabaisse, the first thing that catches the eye is the golden fish meat. Each piece is as thin as a cicada's wing and exudes a faint fish fragrance. The fish meat quickly becomes tender in the hot pan, intertwined with olive oil, onions, garlic and other ingredients, exuding a mouth-watering aroma. Immediately afterwards, the picture turned to those colorful shells. They are stacked in layers in the pot, and after heating, the shells slowly open, revealing the tender flesh inside. What's even more interesting is that under the influence of heat, the flesh begins to slowly shrink, releasing a rich seafood aroma. Come closer, you can also smell a charming fragrance. It's the aroma of thyme, coriander and bay leaf that permeates the hot soup. Finally, the white cream blends into the fish soup, making the entire soup base smoother and richer, like a charming Mediterranean picture. In this picture, Irina not only saw the unique noble colors and aromas of French cuisine, but also felt Kikuchinka's love and pursuit of cuisine. It's really rare. Now, there is such an authentic bouillabaisse. Irina, who was intoxicated by it, could not help but exclaim. Then, without saying a word, she picked up the bowl and chopsticks and began to taste them. This dish, how to say, at the beginning, it has a rich and layered taste. First, the tender fish meat melts in your mouth, as if dancing in your mouth, while the shellfish brings a rich seafood flavor and a slight crunch. This made Irina, who had only taken one bite, almost unable to stop. After swallowing, it is followed by a taste of both vanilla and spice. It spreads quickly in the mouth and continues to coat everywhere on the tongue, adding depth and complexity to the finish of the dish. Finally, with the addition of light cream, the whole taste becomes smoother and richer, which seems to bring a perfect ending to the bouillabaisse. Soon a misty and illusory picture gradually emerged in Nakari Irina's mind, but in the vast ocean, she turned into a small fish, swimming freely in the blue depths on the way. All she could see were colorful coral jungles, and schools of fish of various shapes shuttled among them, constantly playing hide and seek. Irina, who was curious, began to follow the fish swimming in the ocean, as if they were performing an unusually agile dance. Finally, in the embrace of the ocean, she found the reverence for life and the passion for nature. Well, although there are some flaws. For example, it is correct to cook the oysters after adding them, but it is a little overcooked, which affects the taste. But there is no perfect cuisine in this world. Some shortcomings and flaws are normal, as long as they are not excessive. Senior, even though you are from Neon Country, you are able to cook such authentic French cuisine. I really admire you. Perhaps the texture and taste of bouillabaisse may not be able to conquer the tongue of God. However, it allows Irina to calm down and enjoy the unique pleasure of French cuisine. So based on this, Mujiazi Yuongo's bouillabaisse dish won her favor. Yeah, if it satisfies you, then that's good. After hearing Irina's comments, Kikuchi and Oka could only chuckle. Senior, I heard your spring fruit pavilion is going to close down. I looked deeply at Mukachingo for a few times, and then tried my best to savor the taste of the bouillabaisse. Irina became more and more puzzled. Collapse? How could it be possible? Muju Ziyolonguo couldn't help being stunned when he heard such an outrageous thing, and then quickly denied this false information. But she thought of the Izakaya next door, and sighed helplessly. However, it is a fact that the business of chungooding has been declining day by day for more than a month. Just started. There's a Japanese restaurant next door. Due to poor management, it was transferred to another chef a month ago, and he reopened the home wine shop based on the original. At first, we didn't pay much attention to this matter. After all, izakayas usually operate in the evening, which is completely different from the chungoori Western-style restaurant that operates during the day. Furthermore, his izakaya serves civilian cuisine, which is completely different from the elite cuisine concept we pursue. But no one expected it. In just a few days, this izakaya has completely made a name for itself in this food street. Speaking of this, Mujiazi Yuonguo couldn't help but have a somewhat vague figure appear in his mind. He is very handsome and always has a graceful temperament, and there is not a trace of gangsterism about him. Sometimes, when he stood in front of the izakaya, just the act of lighting up the signboard would make Mikashi, who was watching from a distance, deeply attracted. Of course, the origin of this person is still full of mystery. For a whole month, no one knew his identity, and no one knew which culinary school he graduated from. I only vaguely understood that he himself once explained to diners that he came from a greater culinary country, the Celestial Dynasty. Yes, he is a Chinese, no one can know anything else. Izakaya. Hearing Muji Azingo's explanation, the two girls, Irina and Hisako, looked at each other, and they both saw doubts in each other's eyes. That? Izakaya, it's really an interesting place. I heard from many people nearby that this Izakaya currently only has one owner, and there are no chefs, cooks, waiters or other related personnel. Even the cashier responsible for collecting the bills is completely invisible. But even so, the shop owner still makes many people crazy because of his superb cooking skills. Irina, can you believe it? A meat skewer that costs less than 100 yen, according to everyone's evaluation, is far better than our French foie gras dish that costs over 100,000 yen. Common people's cuisine can actually defeat noble cuisine. Hearing this, Irina's sharp eyes were suddenly filled with disbelief. Chapter 13, Civilian Cuisine and Noble Cuisine. In the culinary world, the quality and origin of ingredients are often considered important factors in determining the deliciousness of a dish. However, the problem is not that simple because the two concepts of noble ingredients and ordinary ingredients have never been clearly defined. Generally speaking, noble ingredients usually refer to those ingredients that are rare, expensive, come from a special environment or have a special historical background. Caviar, black truffles, saffron, Kobe beef, etc. are among the most typical ingredients. Nowadays, with the development of the cooking era, the role of food is no longer just for food and clothing, but has become the key to enjoying life and healing the soul. So in Irina's perception, high-end cuisine made with rare ingredients is a kind of luxury product that represents nobility and status. It has even become a class symbol, satisfying the pursuit of delicious food by many elites like her. Just talk fried eggs with tomatoes is a home-cooked dish no matter how delicious it was. Irina wouldn't take a second look at it because this is the same as stone never turning into gold, and it cannot satisfy her psychologically in the same way. A meat skewer costing less than 100 yen can surpass the expensive French foie gras in public evaluation. That is even more unfathomable. Unconsciously, the night gradually became darker, and it started to rain lightly outside. As the owner and chef of an izakaya, Zhang Fan has gradually become busy today. Kobayashi Gentian still showed up at the izakaya on time as usual, and her arrival made this place with a warm atmosphere a bit more noisy. A bottle of grapefruit wine, 2 portions of spicy clams, a bowl of onigiri chazuke rice, 3 extra-large octopus balls, a bowl of Japanese cold inanawa soba noodles, an eel egg roll. She had a big appetite. After ordering these dishes, she sat closest to the cooking table, but you can see that the bottle of grapefruit wine in front of you, which is golden in color and has a hint of light green, is very attractive. Pick it up and take a sip, and you will feel that the aroma of the wine is very unique, with a rich grapefruit flavor and some alcohol at the same time. Next, you can taste the rich fruity flavor of grapefruit, which is deeper and richer than ordinary grapefruit juice. There is no doubt that the taste of this grapefruit wine is refreshing and even intoxicating. Have fun. It's still wine from an izakaya. It's so enjoyable. Breathing out a mouthful of turbid alcoholic breath, Kobayashi Gentian's thoughts were still unfinished then. She raised her head and looked at Zhang Fan affectionately. When I saw him wiping the kitchen knife with a clean knife cloth, I was inevitably fascinated by his serious attitude. Envy, respect, love, excited, joy. There seemed to be complex emotions in those bright eyes. Finally, she withdrew her gaze and couldn't help but say, "Shopkeeper, I tried to make 1,000-layer cakes after I went back, and found that the gap with you is very big. I repeated the process of making the crust thinner than paper dozens of times, but I still couldn't achieve that effect. Really, your cooking skills, the students of Tatsuki Academy, are all out of reach in this life. That's ridiculous. I'll never be this good again." He's just a small izakaya shop owner. Zhang Fan put down the kitchen knife, shrugged his shoulders first, and then responded humbly to Kobayashi Gentian. At first, he thought that the glutton in front of him had spent the night at the izakaya last night and even had breakfast this morning, so he probably wouldn't come again tonight. However, to his surprise, she still showed up at the izakaya on time. Therefore, seeing Kobayashi Gentian being so persistent in food, Zhang Fan could only express helplessly, "In the days to come, I should not be so lonely and bored. Cut in front of me, do. You still need to be so humble. You told me last night that you once worked as a chef in a 5-star hotel. Besides, I have never regarded you as an izakaya owner, but as the greatest chef in the world." After saying this, Xiaolin Ringtong's face turned even redder. After all, she dared to say such words, even she felt disgusting. "Xiao Lin, look, I'm getting goosebumps. Oops." Although these words may sound very, but they are all true. Xiaolin Gentian was so ashamed that he quickly lowered his head in order to relieve the embarrassment in the air. She could only eat the food in front of her quickly, and then she no longer dared to look at Zhang Fan in front of her. Seeing this situation, Zhang Fan could only smile faintly, and then fell silent in the end. He left all the space to Kobayashi Gentian, and he continued to work. When it comes to cooking, Kobayashi Gentian often thinks of those outstanding Totsuki students. However, even though Totsuki Academy is the #1 Seiryo cooking school in Neon Country, it still seems a bit underwhelming in the entire culinary world. As Zhang Fan in front of me seems to have unlimited enthusiasm and creativity for cooking. During the time he was running the izakaya, you could see that he was carefully creating delicious dishes. You can rely on the power of delicious food to awaken the taste buds of every diner and inspire their inspiration and imagination. Moreover, it is different from those chefs who only pursue profits. Zhang Fan has always adhered to the people-oriented cooking philosophy, and every dish he makes takes care of the needs of diners. He is always able to be more meticulous in his selection of ingredients and cooking techniques while being satisfied with putting delicious food on the table. We are also more willing to show unique care and attention in every detail. Have no idea, excellent chef like this, can you solve Akinakubo Momo's troubles? The absent-minded Kobayashi Gentian seemed to have remembered something and couldn't help but mutter to himself, clatter, clatter, clatter. That's when Zhang Fan, who was busy at work, calmly selected a few ingredients and then processed them with a kitchen knife. His knife skills were still very fast, and when the sound of the kitchen knife hitting the chopping board began to sound like a joyful melody, Kobayashi Gentian couldn't help but watch. The dazzling but well-organized knife skills and the seemingly professional cooking techniques always shocked her soul all the time. How to say, men who can cook are indeed the most handsome. Chapter 14. Nakari Arena, her first visit to an izakaya. After coming out of Haragode, Nakari Arena looked a little dazed. She still couldn't understand how this roadside snack made by skewering pieces of meat on bamboo skewers and then grilling it could be far better than the expensive French foie gras. She really wanted to go to Kikuchingo to demonstrate the difference in taste and texture, as well as the richness of the flavor. Unexpectedly, Kikuchi Sanoka just said, "You have never eaten the food of an izakaya. How can you dare to be so confident?" And she was silenced. "Miss, it's still raining lightly now, so get in the car quickly." Seeing that Arena seemed to be worried, Nido Hisako on the side had no choice but to remind her, I see." After saying this, Arena walked lightly and wanted to get in the car and leave the Haragode restaurant. However, as soon as she stepped into the car, she frowned slightly and turned her eyes to the izakaya next door. Again, when she first came to Chungyodo restaurant, she might not have realized the existence of this izakaya, so she didn't pay much attention to it. Now, take a look. Only then did she realize that this izakaya open at night was different from what she had imagined. Fei Sheng, today's food tasting process is over, and I have nothing to do now when I go back, so I want to change my mind and go to that izakaya to see if it is really like what Senior Kikuchi said. Common people's cuisine can beat noble cuisine. After saying that, she quietly walked into the izakaya with a skeptical attitude behind her. Nido Hisako was a little stunned. After all, she didn't expect Arena to suddenly change her mind, but she didn't say much after that. She just hurriedly followed Nakari Arena and walked in with her. Izakaya. From the appearance point of view, the overall appearance is simple, but full of characteristics. Its facade is not very big, with only 2 wooden doors. Each door is 2 meters wide. Although it is made of wood, it does not leave any mottled marks or cracks above the door. There is a small signboard with a simple pattern that marks the name and characteristics of the izakaya. And every night at 7 o'clock sharp, when the izakaya is about to open for business, Zhang Fan will light up this signboard first. Enter the izakaya. The first thing that catches the eye is its bar. The bar counter is also made of thick wood and has been carefully processed and polished to make it very sturdy and durable. Although it is impossible to carefully measure the height of the bar with your eyes, it should be between 1 meter and 1.5 meters. Such a height diners can sit at the bar, face the chef, and watch the chef making delicious food. The interior decoration is also very unique and different from other izakayas. The walls and ceiling are painted light yellow, giving people a calm and mysterious feeling on the walls. You can even see some decorations, such as some traditional paintings. Also inside the Izakaya there are also some hanging lanterns and paper lights, adding a warm and romantic atmosphere to the entire space. Irina, who had just entered, saw that every diner here was talking loudly. Their laughter and cheers continued, and even in the corner, some diners could be seen singing and dancing. Their performances often win the attention and applause of other diners. Obviously, this lively and free-laughing atmosphere surprised Nakari Irina at this time. "Miss, is this place really an izakaya?" Hisako, who was also looking at this izakaya, finally couldn't help but asked in wonder. She couldn't believe her eyes and couldn't understand that a small izakaya could be so joyful and put a happy smile on the faces of every diner here. Shocking, it was so shocking. Could it be that this izakaya has a very mysterious magic power that is bewitching the diners behind its back? "Senior, why are you here unexpectedly?" Hisako's exclamation could not bring Irina back to her senses at all. She noticed that the diner sitting closest to the cooking table, eating octopus balls, was actually the female students who currently represented the strongest Tatsuki Academy, Kobayashi Ringtong. What's the situation? The second seed of the 10 elites will be here. Oh, it turns out to be Irina. After swallowing, Ringtong Kobayashi looked in the direction of the sound. When she found out that the person who called her was the eldest lady of the Nakari family, Ringtong Kobayashi was inevitably stunned. Immediately, she continued to take a large octopus ball, took a big bite, and asked in a calm tone, "What? Are you here to eat too?" So be it. Actually, I came to Chungo Pavilion tonight to try out the food. Then I heard from Kikuchichi-senpai that the cuisine at this izakaya is comparable to, no, better than her Haragoto's Western cuisine. So I came in here with a dubious attitude. Noble birth possessed the talent of God's tongue coupled with Nakari Thistle's extreme education. Her childhood left a serious psychological shadow, so much so, under the influence of many things Irina's character is a bit extreme, especially when it comes to treating civilian food. She often shows a disdainful attitude. Therefore, in many people's minds, she is a genius girl from Tatsuki Academy, but she is also a rose with thorns, and no one wants to get close to her. Certainly facing Kobayashi Gentian, she also knows how to curb her pride and show a calm and casual look. Then you've come to the right place. The food in this izakaya is really good, and maybe it can even conquer your God's tongue. Open your mouth wide and continue to taste the Kobayashi Gentian of the octopus balls. Those bright eyes suddenly became round, and after looking at Irina for a moment, they couldn't help but smile. As the second seed among the top 10, she is very aware of the power of God's tongue. It is precisely because of the existence of the God's tongue that the Nakari family has an unshakable position in the cooking and gourmet world of the entire Neon Kingdom. After all, she, Irina, can judge and decide the future careers of all chefs with just one sentence. This supreme influence cannot be matched by anyone. So in the eyes of many people, the tongue of God is an ability that can make everyone envious and jealous. At the same time, it has become the dream of all chefs to conquer the tongue of God with cooking. It's just that after so many years, there is still no one who can make Irina feel truly satisfied with just one dish. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Surprise. At Tatsuki Academy, the difficulty of becoming one of the UNIU 10 heroes can be said to be very high. It requires comprehensive qualities and talents, as well as long-term efforts and dedication. Therefore, like Muikachingo, the second among the top 10 in issue 89, or Kobayashi Raiden, the second among the top 10 in issue 91, they are all human beings. Therefore, Irina has always treated them with respect, and is even willing to get along with them as a junior. However, an inconspicuous izakaya, it is actually worthy of these two strong men to praise and sing. This made her feel a sense of expectation for this izakaya in her heart. But I also thought that if the phenomenon of common people's cuisine actually defeating noble cuisine in this world, wouldn't the cooking concept that I have adhered to over the years collapse in an instant? But, no matter what, anyway, you are here, so let's try the food here. After thinking for a moment, Irina sat directly next to Kobayashi Gentian, and then began to look at the shopkeeper Zhang in front of her. First impression, it was his figure that looked very upright and confident. The age should be less than 20 years old, like Kobayashi Ritsao-senpai, but the height can be over 1.8 meters. With a well-proportioned figure and smooth lines under the soft light, his appearance is even more delicate, and his deep and bright eyes occasionally shine with wisdom. Moreover, his smile is always so warm and kind, as if it can light up everyone's heart, so much so that Irina couldn't help but be stunned for a moment in the end. What, you are the owner here, right? So, are there any dishes you can recommend? Then, she withdrew her gaze and began to ask Zhang Fan because she was a stranger here for the first time. She didn't know many things about this Izakaya at all. Another thing is that she has rarely been to Izakayas before. After all, in her impression, there doesn't seem to be anything delicious in such places. Therefore, she had no choice but to ask Zhang Fan to recommend some dishes to her. Hamburger, fries, chocolate, brownie. This is the dish I recommend to you too. As for Irina's appearance, Zhang Fan would inevitably feel surprised, but he felt it was reasonable. I remembered that in the original plot, she was particularly disgusted with these low-priced civilian dishes. Therefore, after thinking about it for a while, Zhang Fan suddenly brightened up and quickly recommended these Western-style fast food dishes to them. This is an Izakaya. How is it possible that there are all these messy Western-style fast food? Upon hearing this, Irina looked shocked. What kind of trick is he doing? An Izakaya is a kind of eating place that mainly focuses on wine and supplements with snacks. Although the dishes in Izakayas will have strong local characteristics, different Izakayas will have their own unique signature dishes, and these dishes also reflect the local customs and food culture. For example, Izakaya in Tokyo, you can taste fresh seafood and various Japanese barbecues. In the Izakaya in Osaka, you can taste a variety of hot pot and tempura. Result: no matter how you think about it, you can't even think of it, right? Zhang Fan in front of him was actually recommending these Western-style fast food. How is there a rule that Izakayas cannot sell Western-style fast food? Looking at the shocked Irina, Zhang Fan asked rhetorically. There are no rules. It's just that Western fast food is more focused on fast, convenient and cheap positioning. Yes, the most important thing is that it is cheap. Do you think that taking out these Western-style fast food can satisfy me, a genius with the ability of God's tongue? I just want to remind you that you'd better bring out your best dishes, otherwise your Izakaya may not be able to open tomorrow. Irina reminded with a hint of kindness. Do not worry, it's just God's tongue. There's no need for me to come up with the most delicious dishes. Snort. This is what you said. Don't go back on your word when the time comes. Looking at Zhang Fan, Irina clearly felt unconvinced. At the same time, she secretly thought, I must make him look good later. No matter what kind of food I make, I will definitely give him a bad review and ruin his reputation. After hearing this, Zhang Fan did not continue to respond. He knew that facing this kind of girl who is usually arrogant and spoiled, he could only use the most unexpected dishes to convince her. So, he rolled up his sleeves and returned to the cooking table, ready to make hamburgers, French fries, and chocolate brownies. Strangeness, why would you recommend these ordinary Western-style fast food to Irina? Hamburgers and French fries are children's favorite foods, but for middle school students of our age, they are not that attractive. And, what kind of chocolate brownie are you eating this late at night? I can't figure it out. I really can't figure it out. Aside Ryo, Kobayashi watched the entire process. He could only pick up the grapefruit wine, take a sip, and then mutter to himself depressedly. Even though she felt a little depressed about Zhang Fan's actions, but vaguely, she felt that Zhang Fan was not making these Western-style fast food. There is a possibility that he may have used ingredients commonly found in Izakaya to improve these hamburgers, fries and chocolate brownies. This was used to achieve an unexpected cooking effect, which made Irina feel satisfied. After all, if you want to satisfy God's tongue, you have to use this unusual cooking method. So, I hope his cooking will surprise people. After thinking about it, Xiaolin Ringtong could only raise his head and began to look forward to Zhang Fan's next performance. First, prepare some toast bread, then put it in a mixer and mix thoroughly until it becomes crumbs a little larger than bread flour. Immediately afterwards, in a frying pan, fry these breadcrumbs. Evaporate all the moisture out of it and turn it into the color of beef. Toast bread, stir it into breadcrumbs and fry it. Are you sure you're making hamburgers? No, grilling the bread will gradually evaporate the remaining water vapor inside, and even form a water film on the surface, which will seriously affect the overall taste of the hamburger. As a result, the owner of the Izakaya in front of me who was rumored to be magical, didn't know this bit of cooking knowledge, so for this operation, Irina, who was still looking forward to it, frowned deeply and felt disappointed. No, toast bread. The bread itself is not suitable for making hamburger buns. What I want to make is beef patties. After saying that, Zhang Fan couldn't help but smile lightly. What? Using bread to make beef patties? You are, Irina was stunned for a moment, then she thought of a possibility and couldn't help but be shocked. Chapter 16 True and False. False and True. Vegetarianism in these years, it is becoming increasingly popular. However, many people still love the taste of meat, but at the same time they also hope to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Therefore, in order to cater to this new trend of food thinking, many chefs use scientific ingredient processing technology to make vegetarian ingredients have the texture and taste of meat. Take vegetarian chicken as an example. Although it is a kun dish that has been practiced for more than 2.5 years, but its essence is to adjust the processing method of tofu and add seasonings to make it similar to chicken in terms of texture, color and taste. As for using toast bread to create the effect of beef, this was the first time in her life that Nakari Irina had heard of it, but after a short analysis, she felt that this wild idea could be realized in theory. Oh, I guessed half of it right. He is indeed improving the burger, but the method he uses is so innovative that he uses toast bread to make a beef patty. At the same time, Xiaolin Ringtong's eyes rolled around and he seemed to understand something. Add lard, add wheat flour and mix thoroughly to make the bread have a beefy texture. Then, add the diced onions, eggs and nutmeg. Mix and press until it forms a beef patty. Put the beef patty back on the pan and fry it. With the sound of sizzling, a rich beef aroma quickly filled the entire Izakaya. As everyone knows, beef, when cooking at high temperatures, proteins and carbohydrates in muscle tissue undergo the Maillard reaction. This reaction releases many different compounds, including some that have fragrance. But now the beef patties made with toast bread can also exude this fragrance after a short period of frying. Oh my god, this taste is the unique aroma of beef. Nito Hisako, who had been playing the role of a passerby, was smelling the aroma of beef in the air. He couldn't help but cover his mouth in shock and said in surprise, apparently, she succeeded in making beef patties with toast, which was quite a blast for her. I see, this approach does have some tricks. Irina fell into deep contemplation and finally sighed. With her current strength, she can of course use vegetarian ingredients to have the texture and taste of high-end meat. It's just that she would find it very difficult to achieve the effect of beef on toast. Until then she finally saw it clearly. The shopkeeper named Zhang Fan in front of him is not a person with an unworthy reputation. Perhaps in his hands, a simple home-cooked meal can really be far better than those high-end dishes that ordinary people can hardly look up to. Vegetable juice, oyster sauce, mustard broth and most importantly, the specialty teriyaki sauce from Neon Country. Throw all the above into the pot and simmer for 5 minutes to create a special sauce. Then pour this sauce on the beef patty, and follow the hamburger method. Take 2 slices of bread, embryo, tomato, lettuce and beef patty and stack them one after another in this way. The hamburger without beef but with beef is complete. If you take a closer look, the appearance of the fake beef hamburger in front of you is instantly recognizable. The bread has a golden appearance and is slightly bulging, like a small mountain peak. Next is the beef patty, which is located in the middle of the hamburger. Under the influence of the special sauce, it takes on a dark red appearance. In addition to the buns and beef patties, there are also tomatoes and lettuce. The colors of these 2 vegetables are different, adding a bright color to the hamburger. Wow, it's amazing. After all kinds of bizarre practices, the fake hamburgers we made are exactly the same as the beef hamburgers sold on the market. When we got here, Fei Shasha was deeply shocked. The cooking techniques were an eye-opener for her, and even subverted her previous understanding of hamburger cooking. Next, prepare the tofu dregs. Add low-gluten flour, sugar, and water to the tofu residue in sequence. Then stir until it becomes as soft as an earlobe. Right, it's the earlobes. Once the tofu forms a ball, use a knife to cut it into the shape of French fries and fry it. The French fries made with tofu residue have no taste. Therefore, in order to enhance the taste experience, Zhang Fan specially prepared anchovy meat, chopped it into fine pieces, and added it to unsalted butter and stirred it into thick anchovy butter. Finally, add the buttered anchovies to the fries and the special anchovy-flavored fries are complete. These kind of fries, it's not made of potatoes, but tofu dregs. After watching the entire production process, Irina almost went crazy. Only then did she realize that none of the 3 dishes, the hamburger, The French fries, and the chocolate brownie she was going to make later, were real, Miss. He's really awesome. Using tofu residue, you can actually make French fries, and he also carefully used anchovies to make a sauce, so that the tasteless French fries can have a unique anchovy flavor, unlike Irina, who was going crazy. Hisako's eyes were sparkling, and her bright eyes were full of deep admiration. At this moment, even though she had a lot to say, thousands of words could only be condensed into one sentence. Shopkeeper Zhang, you are my god. After ignoring Fei Shash's repeated exclamations, Zhang Fan began to cook the last dish, chocolate brownie, but when he saw him, he first took out an ingredient that everyone present could not expect, rice bran. Yes, it's the kind of rice bran that people throw away when rice is polished. Add coffee and plum jam to the rice bran, then add rum, butter, nuts, etc., and then bake it in the oven. The time and heat set are to bake at 180 degrees in the middle for 35 minutes. Finally, with a sound of ding, the oven work was completely completed, and the chocolate brownie made of rice bran finally appeared in front of everyone. Toast, bread, made into beef patties and then into hamburgers, tofu crumbs, it's made into French fries, but the fries would have no flavor, so anchovies were used to enhance the flavor of the fries. Finally, how could he possibly think of using something as crude and rotten as rice bran to make chocolate brownies that represent nobility? 3 kinds of Western fast food. There is nothing the same at all. It is completely following the traditional method. How could Irina not be surprised and shocked by such cooking methods? Chapter 17, The Devouring Nakari. Irina. Sense of smell, taste. These two things in human beings are interrelated, and Irina Nakari, who has the ability of God's tongue, can accurately perceive tastes and smells, and analyze and evaluate them. In other words, even if the toast is made into beef patties, it still remains toast. If want to use this deceptive method, being able to hide everything from Irina is simply extremely naive. Different ingredients, definitely. All have different tastes, textures and aromas, and these characteristics can ultimately be distinguished by the ability of God's tongue. What's more, you have exposed all the secrets of these 3 Western fast food in front of me. Don't you think it is a bit humiliating to do so? Later, after a short analysis, Irina gradually calmed down. In some sauce, the combination of sweet, sour, spicy, salty and other flavors can produce a pleasant taste, but in fact, these flavors alone may not necessarily produce such a taste. So, in the process of cooking, the combination of ingredients can deceive people's taste experience. Anyway, it's useless to talk more. Just eat and see. I believe these 3 Western fast food will completely subvert your knowledge, all the time under the influence of this innate ability of God's tongue. Nakari. Irina always masters the taste of each dish faster than others. She can then use her cooking skills and food science knowledge to continually improve these dishes, because the tongue of God is never wrong. Therefore, she can always give the right answer in this life. Over time, although this amazing talent gave her a very high level of confidence in her evaluation of food and use of cooking techniques, she gradually became intolerant of any criticism from others. This point is vividly reflected in the plot of the original work. At the beginning of school, Soma Yukihira, who was taking the entrance examination, wanted to argue with Irina because of a mediocre dish result. Haven't said a few words yet, he was directly judged to be unqualified by Irina on the spot, causing him to almost fail to become a freshman at Tatsuki Academy. Snort. I'll definitely taste it. After all, in a dish like this, I must work hard to find out the various internal flaws, and then let you deeply understand the price you have to pay if you want to provoke the God's tongue. After saying that, Nakari. Irina directly picked up the freshly baked beef hamburger and took a big bite. The moment you bite it with your teeth, the delicious taste spreads from your mouth immediately afterwards. There was a soft and elastic touch, as if trying hard to pop Irina's teeth. If the beef hamburgers sold in the market outside always taste crispy and crispy, then what Zhang Fan makes is soft and sweet, right? So soft. This soft feeling seems to come from the unique characteristics of the outermost layer of bread. There is also a special sauce inside, which Zhang Fan just made by slowly simmering vegetable juice, oyster sauce, mustard, clear soup and teriyaki sauce. As long as you bite deeply, you can feel the sauce tightly wrapping the beef patty, bringing out the mellow taste. This, Irina couldn't help but be stunned. In her heart, she began to think to herself, what is going on? Beef patties are obviously made of toast, so why can't you use the power of God's tongue to taste even a little bit of the toast? And how does this rich beef aroma come about? Could it be that in this world, there is really a kind of cuisine that can completely deceive God's tongue and satisfy God's tongue? No, absolutely impossible. This kind of thing, even my mother Nakari Shinichi, think of this Arena, who didn't believe in evil, quickly took another bite. With a second bite, she finally understood that the essence of the beef hamburger in her hand could only be truly appreciated when it was eaten in her mouth. Theoretically speaking, the texture of beef patties made from toast will appear dry, so a thick sauce is needed to set it off. Only when the two are combined with each other can the unique stickiness of beef patties be produced. And how sticky is this? It will also affect the taste of the entire hamburger. It was obvious that Zhang Fan had already thought of this step when he was cooking this dish, and the taste of this beef hamburger exceeded Nakari Arena's expectations. She really didn't expect that even her God's tongue couldn't peek into the essence of toast bread being made into beef patties. Gradually Arena got rid of the elegant eating posture. He started to hold the beef hamburger in his hand tightly and started eating it. Why? What happened, Miss Arena? Why do you look like you are devouring food like this? Did this beef hamburger made with toast bread successfully conquer the tongue of God? Beside, Fei Shasha was so shocked when he saw this scene that his mouth grew so big that he could almost fit an egg in it. Since childhood she has been taking care of Arena's daily life. He is responsible for using his best medicinal food to maintain her health. In the years of following Arena, she has witnessed countless amazing and magical dishes. How damned she became in front of Arena, who has the ability of God's tongue? I also know that in recent times, Arena's taste has actually become more and more picky. Many dishes have long since become worthless in her eyes, and she doesn't even bother to take a look at them. However, who'd have thought in this small Izakaya can a beef hamburger that is not beef satisfy Arena? Oh my god, am I really not dreaming? After thinking about it, the naive Shinto Hashako quickly stretched out his hand and pinched his own cheek. After feeling a little pain, she realized that what happened before her eyes was really not a dream. Do not know why in the past, Arena was quite bored with such mediocre food. However, the beef hamburger in front of her made her feel excited and curious. It even made her want to use the power of God's tongue to explore every taste and texture, to understand how every ordinary ingredient was blended together to form this delicious food, especially when you have a good meal. The happiness and satisfaction in your heart will become stronger, so much so that her hands really couldn't stop. Chapter 18 Civilian Cuisine and Noble Cuisine. Taste, still going on, ate the entire beef burger in one sitting. Arena smacked her lips, feeling that it was not satisfying, so she picked up the anchovy chips next to her and continued to bite. After slowly chewing it with her teeth, the sound and feeling of chewing the fries turned out to be so crisp and sweet, as if it was like a piece of slow-paced relaxing music, which made her immersed in it. Only then did she finally wake up from the shock of the beef hamburger. The handsome shopkeeper Zhang in front of her was indeed the strongest among the many chefs she had met in her life. Fragrant, crisp, sweet, fresh anchovy chips that combined these complex flavors. It was still Arena Nakari who could never taste the original taste of tofu dregs. This kind of French fries has a very unique taste. The crispy French fries are paired with fresh anchovies. She fell in love with it as soon as she tasted it. In particular, the deliciousness of the anchovies perfectly blended with the crispness of the fries themselves, which made her feel the beauty of the fusion of the ocean and the land. At the same time, a little bit of green onion seasoned with salt and pepper. It makes this humble Western fast food snack even more delicious. Since anchovy fries are much thicker than ordinary fries, it is difficult to fry them thoroughly on the inside, but this makes them uniquely delicious, crispy on the outside and chewy on the inside, coupled with a fresh and tender anchovy aroma. The taste is rich and delicious. There are waves of deliciousness and sweetness flowing between the mouth and nose that are irresistible to one's own taste nerves. Irresistible and irresistible. Gradually, Arena's mind began to go blank. It was as if the anchovy chips were all she felt in the world. This smell, how do I describe it? It's like, well, soldiers wearing golden armor, bravely crossing the unknown ocean, going on adventures, exploring, and conquering. At this moment, Arena was starting to think about what words to use to describe the taste of anchovy chips. Suddenly, her taste buds were surrounded by the crispy texture of French fries and the fragrant potato aroma. Each fry seemed to show her their story, telling their journey to become the bravest soldiers, so much so that she seemed to be able to feel the courage and persistence of these little soldiers rolling in the oil pan just now, even using their own lives to interpret what delicious food was. It's really weird. Why do I start crying? Inadvertently, a tear fell from the corner of my eye. It slowly dripped down onto Arena's delicate cheeks and onto the ground. In her mind, she suddenly remembered a very vague figure, The mother who had been tortured because she could not escape the curse of God's tongue when his back was turned to her, he silently chose to run away from home and start traveling around the world after this incident. He completely changed Nakare Thistle, and he decided to use his own method to change everything in the end. Under the cage-style education, Arena's God's tongue ability was developed to the extreme, but it also caused serious psychological trauma. Therefore, in these years, she had very complicated feelings towards her mother, Nagiri Shinichi, with both hatred and desire now. After eating beef burgers and anchovy fries in succession, Arena actually thought of her mother, Nakiri Manaji again. A special taste. Arena naturally knows how to use God's tongue to conduct careful analysis. However, she could not use any power to forget or destroy the memories that were deeply ingrained in her mind. At a young age she is also very interested in these mediocre dishes, but her father, Nagiri Thistle, wanted to fully unleash the potential of the God's tongue. It turned out that the extreme educational concept of mediocre cooking is garbage and it is impossible to lead a new era of cooking was forcibly instilled in her. In the end, it directly led to Arena starting to pursue more advanced ingredients in cooking. Even as long as it is high-class food and fixed methods, she can accept it, but in turn completely rejects common people's cuisine. But at this moment, Zhang Fan made 3 Western-style fast food using cheap and almost free ingredients such as toast bread, tofu residue, rice bran, etc., once again subverting Arena's understanding of civilian cuisine. His cooking was like a light, beginning to illuminate the road ahead. Let Arena Nakiri, who was trapped in darkness, gradually find her own direction in life. Although, I really don't want to admit it, but the cooking you made is indeed satisfying to me, whether it's the beef burger just now, or this crispy anchovy fries, whether it's toast and tofu crumbs, or beef patties and fries. These flavors are amazing to me and will be something I will never forget. After wiping her tears and gathering her emotions, Arena blushed and spoke softly. At this time, she was wondering if she could really use simple ingredients to make simple dishes like Zhang Fan. But is it this simple dish that can satisfy all diners, even your own God's tongue? After thinking about it, she gave herself an answer: impossible. There is no way she can cook such a dish. People, there may be distinctions between high and low, but there is no difference in cooking. Although affordable ingredients are often the most common, you can easily buy them in any supermarket or meat market. But if you analyze it from the perspective of vitamins, minerals, proteins and other components that are beneficial to the human body, you will find that rare ingredients seem to be no different from affordable ingredients. At the end of the day, whether it's mediocre or noble, this is just human subjective consciousness, which is always causing trouble. As a chef, all you have to do is make dishes that satisfy diners. These words any questions. In fact, as long as you think about it carefully, you will find that what Zhang Fan said is a bit ambiguous, but there is no problem at all and he is indeed using his own actions to prove what he said. But no matter what, this discussion shocked Arena deeply. Then she couldn't find any reason to protest. Helpless, Arena had no choice but to raise her head and look at Zhang Fan carefully. Again, it seemed that she wanted to peep into all the secrets of the hotel owner in front of her. I even want to remember his handsome appearance and tall figure in my mind one by one, so that I will never forget it in this life. Chapter 19 Beyond Human Understanding. Unable to conquer the tongue of God? Chocolate brownie, square, side length is about 10 centimeters. Its surface shows a rich chocolate color, which comes from the chocolate used. No, it is rice bran raw material. The surface looks very smooth and the color distribution is very even, giving people a sense of elegance and nobility. Take a closer look under the chocolate glaze. You can feel the inner texture of the brownie, which makes it even more tempting. Whether it's the square shape, chocolate color, smooth surface or delicate facets, these factors combine to create a unique charm. If no one had told me, they might not have believed that this beautiful chocolate brownie was actually made from rice bran. Not only did Arena find it pleasing to the eye, but it also filled her with expectations and desires. Then she bit into it like the previous two. You can't feel the taste of the original ingredients at all, and the rough and unpalatable feeling of rice bran is completely non-existent. Some just a rich chocolate scent. Unknowingly, Arena was addicted to it. Again, the inside of the brownie is also full of chocolate sauce and nuts, with a rich taste and distinct layers. Every time you chew it with your teeth, you can even feel the silky smoothness of the chocolate and the crispiness of the nuts. Well, I really can't stop. Hiccup. Finally, Arena, who was full, burped involuntarily. Why did I hiccup? Nakiri. Arena couldn't help but paused. Then she understood something, and immediately covered her mouth, and a faint blush appeared on her pretty little face. Oh my god, I actually felt full and you also got hiccups because of it. This seems to be damaging to my elegant image, Irina. It's really amazing. No matter how good a chef you are, if you only rely on mediocre ingredients such as toast, tofu dregs and rice bran, it will be difficult to satisfy Irina. However, Zhang Fan actually did it. After taking a sip of sake, Kobayashi Ringtong raised his head slightly. It was then that Irina had eaten all the 3 Western-style fast food items that had just been placed on the table. She found it a bit incredible, even though she had seen Zhang Fan's cooking skills long ago, and how amazing they were, but on the issue of whether the food Zhang Fan made just now would satisfy God's tongue, she actually had no idea. To know the tongue of God is beyond human understanding. Even if someone tries to reach the same level through learning or imitation, they cannot truly reach the level of Irina Nakari. After all, Irina can not only use her sense of taste to judge the various characteristics of the food, but she can also feel every characteristic of each ingredient. In other words, the power brought by this tongue of God naturally. She has extremely high insight and empathy compared to other chefs in the entire culinary world. Even look at it from the perspective of a diner, she is also able to figure out everyone's needs and psychological state, because she can be a chef or a diner. However, this special ability, it will also make her lose interest in all kinds of dishes very quickly in the end. Because I tasted it so many times, I gradually developed a disgust for the food. Therefore, in the eyes of Kobayashi Gentian, even if Zhang Fan himself is very good at cooking, it is difficult for him to conquer God's tongue. But obviously, the development of the whole thing has completely exceeded her expectations and beyond her knowledge. To be honest, time for the anchovies chips. Irina, you can stop tasting that chocolate brownie. After all, no matter how much you taste it, the answer you get will naturally be exactly the same as the previous 2 Western-style fast food dishes. But for some reason, Irina, couldn't resist Zhang Fan's cooking. Every bite she took aroused every nerve in her body, and even made her want to grasp the flavors of these dishes that often disappeared in a flash. This is self-brewed flower tea. It can help you relieve the sweetness after eating brownies. At this moment, Zhang Fan brought a cup of fragrant scented tea and placed it in front of Irina. Thanks. Irina was slightly stunned. Then she quickly picked up the transparent teacup and found that the color of the tea soup was lighter, showing a light yellow color. She sniffed it with her nose first, and then discovered that it was a unique aroma of jasmine, and this aroma is very fresh and pleasant. Just a few sniffs can calm her increasingly impetuous heart. Involuntarily, her eyes brightened slightly, and she began to drink gently under Zhang Fan's gaze. On the palate, this jasmine tea is incredibly smooth and slightly sweet, and when bits and pieces of clean water entered the small mouth, it quickly flowed down the throat and throughout the body. At this moment, Irina, with her eyes closed tightly, felt a coolness flowing around her body, making her feel comfortable all the time. You can even feel that the unique fragrance of jasmine and the mellow aroma of tea are intertwined with each other. This scented tea, it turns out that the tea embryo is refined from spring tea and then dried and preserved. Wait until the jasmine blooming season arrives before you can brew it. Traditional jasmine tea usually needs to be brewed 3 times, which takes 3 days. If it is brewed 6 or 7 times, it will be fragrant, sweet and refreshing, but it will take nearly a month. Etc. Could this extremely delicate taste be the legendary Jiuxin brewing method? Staring blankly at the cup of scented tea, Irina's heart felt like a turbulent wave crashing on the shore, and she became very uneasy. At first, she didn't pay much attention to the cup of scented tea that Zhang Fan handed over. I just feel that based on the quality and taste, it is at most a little better than the common jasmine teas on the market. But after she took a sip, she realized that his cup of jasmine tea was not that simple. The mystery is completely worthy of careful consideration by tea drinkers. Is it possible? Does everything he makes here have to be so perfect? Finally, after thinking of this, Irina Nakari couldn't help but look at Zhang Fan. At this moment, Zhang Fan also began to lower his head slightly and look towards Irina. In an instant, the look in their eyes finally, they collided together accidentally, their eyes facing each other tightly. This unexpected coincidence made Irina's heart feel as if she had been electrocuted and had some fluctuations. That strange feeling made her unable to explain or understand it for a while. Therefore, in panic, she had to quickly retract her gaze, then look away. She no longer dared to look directly at Zhang Fan, and her expression became a little unnatural. Chapter 20 Dishes for 5,000 yen. Izakaya. Business hours are from 7 p.m. to 12 p.m. This timing is very important, because most of the diners faced by Zhang Fan's Izakaya are ordinary working-class people after a day's work. After working overtime, or after get off work, everyone will come here to have a few glasses of wine and eat some snacks to eliminate the fatigue and stress of the day. Although, coming to an izakaya is like going home, it has a warm and comfortable atmosphere and can completely relax you. The food and drinks provided are also similar to those at home, allowing many people to feel the taste of home when tasting delicious food. However, lots of diners I usually don't go back too late, and I usually leave the izakaya before 12 p.m. After all, I have to get up and go to work early tomorrow morning. Of course, it is also because the reputation of the izakaya has just begun, and the number of diners who come every day is actually not very many, so Zhang Fan simply chooses to lay down and close after 12 o'clock, maybe in the future. When the entire izakaya gradually grows in size, he will choose to delay the izakaya's business hours. Right, time passing by in a hurry. Irina Nakari did not leave just after finishing her beef burger, anchovy fries and chocolate brownie. She continued to sit there, watching the diners coming in and out. Occasionally, she would secretly watch Zhang Fan to see how he cooked and put a happy smile on the face of every diner who came in. She had always believed that noble cuisine could be achieved not only relying on those rare ingredients, but more importantly, relying on the chef's own superb cooking skills. Some cooking skills cannot be learned through continuous hard work. Sometimes, it has a crucial relationship with the chef's own vision, knowledge, and even talent. A country bumpkin cook, he had never seen a noble black truffle, nor had he tasted the taste of a black truffle, so, no matter how hard he tried, even if he just absorbed the theoretical knowledge in the book, he was destined to be unable to make a real black truffle dish. Therefore, being able to master cooking skills and talents that even many geniuses cannot master is the basic condition for an excellent chef. And Irina, who has the talent of God's tongue, is naturally far better than many people in this aspect, so she also has her own share of pride. On the contrary, Zhang Fan, however, took a completely different path from hers. The scale and quality of the izakaya he runs are definitely not comparable to those of a 5-star hotel, and the dishes he brings out to entertain diners are usually snacks, home-cooked dishes. Night snacks and snacks. These dishes are not difficult to make. Even people who don't know how to cook can try to make it in their small kitchen at home, but Zhang Fan often has a different way of making these simple dishes than others, especially the kind of understanding and thoughts about every dish who always make her eyes light up. And unlike those chefs who only pursue profits, Zhang Fan really maintains a passionate heart for cooking and delicious food. Maybe a hot beef burger, it doesn't matter whether it's made from toast bread or not. Is it noble cuisine? Is it civilian cuisine? These concepts are not important either. What's important is just what Zhang Fan said just now. A chef only needs to bring out the best food and satisfy the diners. After all, no one who comes to an izakaya and eats these dishes will care about these things like Irina does. Miss Irina, the atmosphere of this izakaya is different from other places. It is indeed full of warmth. It gives me the feeling that even those 5-star hotels with world-class chefs and the most delicious dishes in the world are nothing compared to this. At this moment, Nido Hisako couldn't help but sigh when facing the warm atmosphere of the izakaya. In this world, there are two things you cannot live up to, like gourmet food. Love is definitely one of the most beautiful emotions in the world. It can make human beings feel extremely happy and satisfied, and food that can bring happiness to people is naturally full of love and emotion. Just like say during these years, she would cook some medicinal dishes for Irina every day. The purpose of these medicinal dishes is to recuperate the weak Irina. It was to prevent her from being so tired, and to prevent her physical condition from gradually becoming weak due to the curse of God's tongue and this kind of food full of emotions. The food that I hope will make Irina happy has always been what Hisako is most proud of, although in order to make these medicinal dishes, she would sometimes go through various ancient medical books to find various medicinal materials. And she was very busy, but after the fact, when I saw that Irina gave a good evaluation after tasting these medicinal dishes, I felt a little satisfied. She will feel that everything she has paid is worth it now. When watching Zhang Fan use his cooking to arouse the emotions of the diners and soothe their souls, Fei Shasha could not help but feel a deep resonance. It was as if he could see his former self in Zhang Fan. This is an izakaya. It's indeed like what Senior Kikuchi said, it's unusual. After coming back to her senses, Irina just nodded, confirming the opinion of Nido Hisako. Next to her later, when she saw that Zhang Fan seemed to be free, she took the initiative to talk to him. Zhang Fan, right, can I ask first, how much does this beef burger, anchovy fries, and chocolate brownie cost in total? This number. After finishing speaking, Zhang Fan just stretched out one hand and spread all 5 fingers. 5 million yen. Irina, what? Do you think the food I cook is worth this price? Zhang Fan was almost stunned when Irina said the price of 5 million yen. After thinking for a moment, maybe it's because she was born in a noble family, so she doesn't have a clear concept of money, or maybe she really feels that with Zhang Fan's own cooking skills and talents, the dishes he makes are worth the price. Is it possible that Irina in front of me was impressed by me so quickly? After thinking about it, Zhang Fan just shook his head and said with a smile, 3 zeros less, 5,000 yen, huh? What did you say? Such a good meal is only worth 5,000 yen. Hearing this, Irina was shocked again. She suddenly remembered what Kikuchi Chinoko said. The meat skewers at this Izakaya for less than 100 yen are far better than the French foie gras at Harogode that costs over 100,000 yen. Chapter 21. I just want to use this method to satisfy my desire to conquer. The price of the food aid is closely related to the ingredients and production costs, as well as the skills and experience of the chef. A dish must go through multiple steps and links, and each link requires careful operation and control by the chef. Therefore, the chef's cooking skills directly determine the quality and taste of the dishes. In short, good ingredients. If there is no good chef to cook, it will be a waste of its own value, and ordinary ingredients, in the hands of excellent chefs, can turn decay into magic, which is amazing. Yes, undeniable, the ingredients used in Zhang Fan's dishes are very ordinary. Logically speaking, the price should not be set very high, but in Irina's opinion, with his excellent cooking skills, the dishes he cooks can be included in the sky-priced dishes. You can't make money if you don't have money. I really don't know what you are thinking in your heart. Seeing Zhang Fan's serious face and no intention of joking at all, Irina only felt puzzled. But he is the owner of the shop, and it is his business to decide how to price the dishes. It is not her place to say anything. What's more, even if you argue with him on this matter, how reasonable can you be? Fei Sheng, please help me pay this 5,000 yen. I'm a little tired. I just want to be able to return to Tatsuki Academy as soon as possible and have a good rest. Afterwards, after calming down a little, Irina turned to Hisako next to her and said lightly, "Okay, miss." Irina, Hisako, was startled for a moment, then reacted quickly, followed Irina's instructions, took out 5,000 yen from his pocket and handed it to Zhang Fan. Zhang Fan, your cooking, although it satisfies me, it still doesn't impress me, because the concept of cooking you insist on is completely different from mine. You and I are destined to be on different paths. I will use my actions to prove that in the future era of cuisine, only noble cuisine can lead everything. And your cuisine will only be completely eliminated and annihilated in the tide of the times. After saying that, Nakari Irina turned around and left the Izakaya with firm eyes. During this trip, she gained a lot unexpectedly. She herself didn't expect that she would go to the Chungguding Western-style restaurant to try the food tonight, but she would meet Zhang Fan by accident. I even realized that in this world, there really is food that can conquer the tongue of God, and this kind of cuisine is the civilian cuisine that she has always despised the most. Thank you, our eldest lady. It's been a long time since I've eaten so happily as I did today. Seeing this, Irina actually stood up and left. Fei Shasha here quickly thanked Zhang Fan, then she hurriedly followed Irina and left the Izakaya with her. Use beef. How easy is it to just make beef hamburgers? But you didn't choose to do that. Instead, you used cheaper toast bread to make beef patties, and the ingredients for French fries are also very simple. They are just potatoes, but you actually use the remains of tofu to make them. Once or twice, I can still understand. However, even that chocolate brownie, you are using rice bran that even dogs would shake their heads at. It's hard not to make me wonder, did you do this on purpose? At this moment, seeing that Irina had finally left, Rin Kobayashi, who had not left, spoke to Zhang Fan in an intriguing way. What do you think? Zhang Fan just smiled mysteriously when he heard this. I knew it. With your ability, you can use rarer ingredients to make noble dishes, although at the beginning, I felt very unsure about whether you could conquer God's tongue with cooking. But I have been looking forward to it and firmly believe that you can make something that will amaze everyone. The food. As a result, 3 kinds of Western-style fast food were made. Although Irina is satisfied in the end, it still makes me feel a little disappointed. Obviously, you can do better. Seeing Zhang Fan's foolish behavior, Zhang Gentian could only give him an annoyed look. She really couldn't understand and didn't understand why Zhang Fan had to put so much effort into making these dishes in front of Arena. Anything, we must pay attention to whether we win or lose. As for the difference between noble cuisine and common people's cuisine, ingredients are often the key. For Arena, who has the talent of God's tongue, she will naturally have extremely high requirements for the freshness and taste of ingredients, so it is reasonable for her to despise common people's cuisine, but in the long run, she will completely embark on a path of no return due to her own cognitive bias. Zhang Fan continued, so you want to help her in this way? Tisk, 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 can't you tell? You're quite a weirdo. After taking a sip of the fruit wine, Zhang Gentian seemed to have some realization, and couldn't help but smile slyly. She is not related to me, so why should I help her? The reason why I want to use this method is just to see this arrogant and noble young lady. The dishes I made with all kinds of cheap ingredients ruthlessly stimulated me to orgasm on the spot, and then I used this to satisfy my desire to conquer. Zhang Fan was startled, then shook his head and said truthfully, Puff, I didn't expect you to have such a wicked side. Upon hearing this, Zhang Ringtong immediately spat out a fruit wine in his mouth and started looking at Zhang Fan in astonishment. She was thinking just now that Zhang Fan turned out to be such a great person. He even thought of using his own methods to help Arena, who had gone astray, get back on the right path. However, totally unexpected, he just wanted to conquer Arena's God's tongue in the most uncomfortable way. That's all. In fact, Arena is a very stubborn person. What's interesting is that whether Zhang Fan's cooking is popularized or her cuisine is high-end, these are the understandings of cooking skills in different worlds and different eras. In Arena's eyes, no matter how simple the ingredients are, she cannot make a dish that satisfies her. But in Zhang Fan's opinion, Arena's noble cuisine is actually boring, because both the ingredients and cooking methods must be perfect. But no matter how perfect the food is, what can it do? Only food that can be enjoyed by the public is real food. Perhaps on such a controversial matter no one is right or wrong, but today's encounter will completely change Nakari Arena in the future, but it is also an indisputable fact. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. Be careful, you will become a fat pig and no one will want you. Night. A black car was driving quietly on the road under the illumination of the lights on both sides. The car paint shines, reflecting a deep black, like a ghost in the night. Sitting in the car, Arena was feeling the scenery outside the car window, which kept flashing in front of her eyes. This fluid visual experience aroused her thinking and began to gradually immerse her in her own thoughts. Miss, you seem to really like Zhang Fan's cooking. At this moment, Fei Shasha is on the side, seeing Arena looking worried. Knowing that it might be because of Zhang Fan's cooking, she could only help but chuckle. I don't like his food. After hearing this, Arena came back to her senses and continued angrily, Hisako, I have stopped all work for tomorrow. Then you go buy toast, tofu and rice bran. Remember to buy more, I want to use them. Why could it be? Oh, I got it, Miss Arena. I will definitely do it tomorrow. Before she could finish what she wanted to say, she was glared at by Arena fiercely. This frightened little Hisako, and she quickly changed her words and nodded in response. The female mind sometimes, it's still weird. He obviously said he didn't like it, but the next second he became concerned. But even so, it still can't change the scary thing about Arena. That is, she keeps saying that she hates common people's cuisine, but this does not mean that she knows nothing about common people's cuisine. Noble birth. It's definitely not her fault. After all, one cannot choose one's origin. Her achievements are certainly due to her extraordinary ability of God's tongue, but it is also due to the entire huge Nakare family behind her. Only she stands at the top of the pyramid. He is the most typical representative figure among the elites in society, and compared to the other eldest lady of the Nakare family, who has lived in the Nordic region for a long time and doesn't even know what a seaweed bento is, she, Arena, certainly looks more stylish. Zhang Fan, your cooking, no matter what kind of mystery there is, I will use the power of God's tongue to reveal it to you one by one. Finally, Nakari Arena's eyes flickered a few times and murmured to herself, The moonlight is like silver, the stars in the night sky are like every chess piece on a chessboard, giving the entire night a sense of calm and tranquility. At this time, Ringtone Kobayashi in the Izakaya was looking at the empty wine glass and couldn't help but be stunned. She quickly picked up the wine bottle next to her, opened the cork again with a pop, and wanted to fill the wine glass. In the end, no matter how hard she tried, only one drop of wine slowly dripped down the mouth of the bottle into the glass. Gone. Have I finished drinking it? Seeing this, Kobayashi Gentian was like a deflated balloon, with a look of disappointment on his face, but she felt that she couldn't waste the last drop of wine, so she started to pick up the wine glass and tilted it toward her mouth so that the drop of wine could finally reach her mouth. Oh, it's so enjoyable. Putting down the wine glass, Xiaolin Ringtong blinked his bright eyes and looked at Zhang Fan pitifully. Shopkeeper Zhang, have another bottle? No, if I give you another drink, you'll probably have to spend the night at my place again. Zhang Fan directly interrupted her and refused. Oops, just give me a little more. I promise I will control myself and not get drunk like last time and cause you a lot of trouble. Seeing that Zhang Fan's attitude was so resolute, Xiaolin Gentian could only say in an almost pleading tone, no means no. You may have forgotten the rules of my Izakaya. After 12 o'clock, all diners must leave the Izakaya. Even drunk diners must be asked to be carried out. Last time, the reason why I keep you here, I can't bear to see young women like you living on the streets. Zhang Fan frowned slightly and continued, what a disappointment. Isn't an Izakaya a place for drinking? How come you have this unwritten rule when you come here? Sure enough, Arena is right, you are just too stubborn to make money. Hearing this, Xiaolin Ringtong could only sigh helplessly. Then she touched her stomach and found that she seemed hungry again, and it was still more than half an hour before the Izakaya's closing time. Therefore, her eyes rolled around and she couldn't help but said, if you can't drink, then can you order more food? That's fine, but you've eaten so much, can you still eat it? Hearing this, Zhang Fan almost couldn't laugh or cry. In some cases, this Kobayashi Gentian is really a character who loves food and has a soft spot for all kinds of rare ingredients, but not to mention, the image of this kind of foodie is not that disgusting, but even a little lovable. It's edible. I'm about to touch you now, so I'm only 70% full, right? Let me think about it first. What do you want to eat? Okay, shopkeeper Zhang, give me 3 more grilled chicken skewers, 1 fried tofu, 1 plate of bacon shredded asparagus, 1 small plate of salted squid, 1 soup egg roll, 1 bowl. I don't know if he was deliberately retaliating against Zhang Fan by making him so busy that he couldn't close after 12 o'clock. The delicious Kobayashi Gentian made me order a dozen side dishes. Eat so much, be careful, you will become a fat pig and no one will want you. Zhang Fan remembered the names of these dishes one by one, and then joked with a smile, cut, no way, I am not prone to obesity. Even if I eat meals for 10 people every day, I will not become obese easily. Kobayashi Gentian replied angrily. It seems that everyone's digestion and absorption function is different. People who eat the same food and have better digestion and absorption functions will easily gain weight. It is obvious that Kobayashi Gentian may have poor digestion and absorption function and consume less energy, so she does not gain weight no matter how much she eats. Yeah, there is a point where you are fatter than many people. Listening to these words, Kobayashi Ringtong really thought that he had gained weight recently, and his face was so frightened that he looked a little flustered, but after a while, she finally understood what Zhang Fan meant. Qiao Li suddenly blushed and said shyly, shopkeeper, I didn't expect you to be a bad gangster. Ahem, I'm going to cook for you. Zhang Fan pretended to cough twice, then turned back to the cooking table, ready to get busy again. Chapter 23 Special Recipe, Reincarnation Spring Rolls. After an hour, Kobayashi Gentian ate the last bowl of egg udon noodles with sauce. The deliciousness of the soup made her feel warm, and the tenderness of the eggs also made her feel the same way. Especially with the addition of kombu, the texture and deliciousness of kelp will always fill your mouth. Finally, she licked her mouth, touched her belly, and began to sigh. Eating and drinking well is the happiest thing in life. Xiaolin, you can really eat it? Zhang Fan was looking at Xiaolin Gentian as if he were looking at a monster who'd have thought that after eating a dozen side dishes, she would order a bowl of simmered udon noodles. No way. Every meal you cook is so delicious, so I became a little bit greedy and ate a few 100 million more. Looking at the look in Zhang Fan's eyes, Xiaolin Ringtong's face turned slightly red. Now she wanted to find a place to hide it, but she had to quickly return the ceramic bowl that she had liked until it shined to Zhang Fan. PFFT, unexpectedly, Zhang Fan couldn't help laughing. What's the matter, Xiaolin? Ringtong's face was even more ashamed, thinking that Zhang Fan was still concerned about her appetite. Your face, they were all going to grow beards. Zhang Fan pointed at Xiaolin Ringtong's right cheek and chuckled. Hearing this, Xiaolin Ringtong was stunned, and he subconsciously touched it with both hands, and found that there was a piece of udon noodle stuck to his right cheek. He couldn't help but make a bang sound, and his pretty face turned even redder. Use this handkerchief. Seeing this, Zhang Fan took a clean handkerchief and handed it over. Thanks, Kobayashi Gentian. After taking the handkerchief, he first took the udon noodles away from his cheeks, and then wiped his mouth in a panic. In the end, she just looked at Zhang Fan quietly. If before, she felt that Zhang Fan was full of mystery, now in her mind, he is a very gentle chef. Maybe his gentle side is what fascinates me so much. Shopkeeper, before leaving the Izakaya, can you please sit next to me? What kind of strange request is this? Oops, just sit over here. Really? Unable to defeat Xiaolin Gentian, Zhang Fan had no choice but to move his position and sit next to her. Afterwards, Kobayashi Ringtong actually took the initiative to slowly rest his head on his shoulder. At this time, Zhang Fan was stunned, and couldn't help but lower his head and glanced, and found that she seemed to be enjoying such a moment, enjoying the feeling of being by her side. Therefore, he no longer had the heart to disturb her under the dim light. The two people began to look so harmonious and natural. Finally, Kobayashi Gentian still left. This time she was not drunk, and she did not tell her stories in the Izakaya like other diners, but when parting, she still used the way to express her love to Zhang Fan, and with her departure, it was finally time for the Izakaya to close. Ling Dong, host, successfully signed in. Once, Ling Dong, 4. This sign-in, the host will receive 10 real snapper ingredients, 20 kilograms of A4 grade beef, and a new smart dishwasher for kitchen equipment. Ling Dong, congratulations to the host for completing the task of breaking through the daily guest flow of the Izakaya to more than 50 people within 24 hours, and successfully obtained the special recipe, Reincarnation Spring Roll. At this moment after the Izakaya closes, the system beep in my mind became loud again. Obviously, the reward for signing in this time is not bad. The first is 10 pieces of real snapper and 20 kilograms of high-quality A4 grade beef. Both of these are rare ingredients that are hard to find in the vegetable and meat market outside. Then it's this new smart dishwasher. It has the latest plasma sterilization function and can independently control drying and disinfection, and every hot air exchange can have plasma effect at the same time, which is good for the storage and hygiene of the dishwasher. Besides, 60,000 Pa high water pressure, 5 layers of spray arms, 4-layer bowl basket, first-class water efficiency, clean in layers. These are versatile configurations compared with the dishwashers outside. They are more intelligent and advanced. So for Zhang Fan, he still likes this smart dishwasher. After all, its existence can solve many problems in the Izakaya to a certain extent, greatly improving his own work efficiency. At last, it's a special recipe, Reincarnation Spring Rolls. In fact, the things rewarded by the system can be divided into 4 major categories. These 4 major categories can be further subdivided into many smaller categories. But in fact, there is still a special independent category. For example, in the recipe category, there is a subcategory of special recipes, and in the ingredient category there is also a subcategory of special ingredients. Why it's special? That's because these things themselves are unusual, even not exaggerating. It is an existence that does not exist in this world. Let's talk about the special recipe of reincarnated spring rolls that Zhang Fan just obtained. There is absolutely no such recipe in the world of spirit of the Shokugin. It actually comes from another world, the Little Master of China, and was made by Super Chef Liu Pleiades. This dish, the ingredients required are actually very common, including mushrooms, cabbage, carrots, spring bamboo shoots, green peppers, snapper, fish skin, spring roll skin, and the most important ingredient is sea bream. The quality of the whole snapper will be related to the overall taste of the dish. Then, the method is to prepare a kitchen knife with 100 small holes. Insert steel wire into the 100 small holes to form a wire ring, and then bake it on the fire. When the blade is baked and turns red, Go and process the snapper meat through this unique processing method. The heat of the kitchen knife itself can be used to preserve the taste of the sea bream meat, thus greatly improving the taste experience of the reincarnation spring rolls. After that, the mushrooms, cabbage, carrots, spring bamboo shoots, green peppers and other ingredients are minced in sequence. Immediately afterwards, heat the pan and cool the oil. Add the sea bream meat, fry briefly and season with cooking wine, black pepper and a little salt. Continue to stir fry and wait for 3 minutes before serving. Finally, just put everything together, add oil and salt, mix well, wrap it with spring roll wrapper, and bake it. This dish, in the plot of the original novel, is not inferior to Ren's hot and fresh sea bream. Therefore at this moment Zhang Fan has reason to believe that this Izakaya will cause a sensation in the entire culinary world in the future. Chapter 24 God's Tongue, a dish that no one can peek into. Early morning as the birds wake up and emit their crisp chirping, a new day begins. At Tatsuki Academy, in a tall building rising from the ground, there is a particularly spacious kitchen here, which is the exclusive kitchen for Arena, the 10th seed of the current 10 elites. When you walk into the kitchen, you will see all kinds of kitchen utensils that are used daily: stoves, ovens, microwaves, steam cabinets, stew pots, refrigerators, freezers, etc., are all sparkling under the daily careful care of the secretary Feishak, as if they can tell the story of the kitchen. At this time, Arena, who had already put on the chef's uniform, was breathing calmly. Then, she began to imitate Zhang Fan's method, adding her own coffee and plum jam to the rice bran bought from the grain station. Miss, this kind of civilian cuisine shouldn't be worthy of your research, right? Next. To him, Nido Fishako said in confusion. No, Fei. Shat, I just want to find out the flaws in all Zhang Fan's dishes and improve them. When the time comes, use these improved dishes to completely overthrow his cooking philosophy. Arena, obviously, still felt very unwilling, but, even if we defeat him, what will happen, Nido? Hisako scratched the back of his head and asked again in confusion. She always felt that Arena was too serious about this matter, but at the same time, she was looking forward to how far this noble lady with the talent of God's tongue could push Zhang Fan's cooking to another level. Is it to stand on his shoulders and surpass him, or will he be completely trampled under his feet? And no matter how many times he struggles, he can only be forced to accept the fact of failure. You do not understand. His cooking has already made me want to waver. If I can't use my own methods to outshine others, I'm afraid the path I will stick to for the rest of my life will completely collapse. After saying this, Arena's eyes became as sharp as a sword, and she immediately started making chocolate brownies. Time. A moment passes. Pots of green plants beside the windowsill bring fresh air to the entire kitchen. On the chopping board, there are 3 Western-style fast food items: beef hamburger, anchovy chips, and chocolate brownie. Judging from the appearance of the dishes, they are almost the same as what I saw at the Izakaya last night. Sharp, as expected of Miss Arena. Sure enough, no one in this world can hide their cooking from you. Seeing Arena, using her own God's tongue ability, finally perfectly recreated Zhang Fan's dishes, she couldn't help but marvel. I'll just say it, his cooking is nothing more than that. Putting away the kitchen knife, Nakari Arena looked at her work and felt very satisfied, but she also knows very well that the taste of a dish is often more important than its appearance. Even if they are made exactly the same in appearance, it will be of no use if the taste is not superior. Just like Chinese cuisine, which is number 1 in the entire cuisine world, there are many stews and boiled dishes. The appearance, color, ingredient combination, etc. are not very amazing, but the taste is very rich. Same. Arena was shaken. It's not that Zhang Fan's cooking is so beautiful, but it's so delicious. So next, Arena started to pick up the beef hamburger she made. She smelled it first, and after feeling that there was nothing wrong with it, she took a bite. Well, unexpectedly, the moment she took the bite, she just felt dizzy, and a particularly disgusting feeling emerged from her heart, making her face even more ugly. Helpless, she had to quickly cover her mouth and keep making sounds. Such a situation naturally frightened Hisako next to her. She seemed to understand something and quickly found a disposable vomit bag and handed it to Arena. Hey, finally, Arena vomited everything she ate in her mouth. Are you okay, Miss Arena? Faye Shasha asked with worry and concern. Fine, it just tastes too much like toast, and the taste of this food disgusts me. Arena, who slowly calmed down, finally waved her hand quickly. indicating that Izakaya didn't need to worry too much about her. How could this be? 1. Listen, Irina made the beef burger. The taste was so much like toast. Faisha couldn't help but be surprised. This means that Irina can no longer use the power of God's tongue to peek into all the secrets of Zhang Fan's dishes. No, impossible, right? In this world, it is outrageous enough that a dish can conquer the tongue of God. As a result, Zhang Fan's cooking not only conquered the God's tongue, but also completely disabled the ability of the God's tongue. Fei Sheng, tell me if there's a way. Irina's face gradually became serious, and she continued, is it possible to surpass Zhang Fan's cooking by other means without using the power of God's tongue? IMHO, with the power of God's tongue, you can't surpass him. The only person in this world who can defeat him is himself. Fei Shasha heard this and replied without thinking, the ability of God's tongue is not a physical superpower. It also represents Nakari Irina's own cooking experience and knowledge. After all, since she was a child, under the strict training of her ghost father, she had already developed the ability of God's tongue to the extreme. Even his own cooking experience and knowledge are already beyond the reach of ordinary people. Therefore any dish Irina can really reproduce it perfectly or even improve it after tasting it once. This can be seen in the plot of the original work, when she improved Sama Yukihira's peanut butter squid legs and directly defeated Shi Yingxi and Kobayashi Ringtong. However, facing Zhang Fan's cooking, her God's tongue ability seemed to be malfunctioning naturally. This ending made Irina deeply shocked again. Why? I clearly remember the taste of his dishes, and when we were at the Izakaya, I could clearly see his every move in front of the cooking table and the entire process of cooking, but why can't I make his food at all? What kind of person is he? Until this moment, Irina felt deep fear of Zhang Fan from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 25 Akane Kubo Momo. Dessert. In the entire culinary world, it has always had a very special status. It is not only a kind of food, but also a kind of culture and art. It is deeply loved by people for its unique taste, color, and shape. At this time in another kitchen, the freshly baked souffle dessert looks full of air and fluffy like clouds. However, it started to collapse within just 1 minute. The hard work of 30 minutes finally gave way to a short period of appreciation. It is like blooming fireworks, short-lived and fleeting, and the gorgeous and beautiful moments only last for a moment, or not. As long as it touches the air, it will collapse due to cold contraction. Seeing the completely collapsed souffle in front of her eyes, Akane Kubateo could only say helplessly, "Peach, are you here?" At this time, Kobayashi Gentian suddenly appeared behind him and took the initiative to greet him. Hearing this, Akane Kubo Momo turned back to look at her, frowned and asked back, "Renton, what are you doing here? I miss you, just come and see you." Xiaolin. Ringtong blinked his bright eyes and smiled. The entire Tatsuki Academy has always adopted a highly competitive elimination system education method. This has led to various struggles and conflicts between students in order to strive to climb higher and for their own interests. In order to resolve this irreconcilable conflict, the Academy official could only formulate a rule called Shikamaru, so don't look at the top 10, they are all one. But in fact, various contradictions and conflicts may occur because of their different ideas. For example, the current 6th seed of the Kingdom of Ji, Ningning, and the 7th seed of the Kingdom of Asi. The families behind them are famous families with the titles of the Kingdom of the East and the Kingdom of the West, but because they each insist on different things, they have completely gone into the opposite direction. Different paths. Then as the 4th seed among the top 10, Akane Kubo Momo can almost walk sideways in the academy. The reason why she likes to give people nicknames is because she is so powerful and shows contempt for those whose cooking skills are lower than hers. But if we were to judge the rank among the top 10, there were 3 more places ahead of her, and Kobayashi Gentian was one of them. Although psychologically, she doesn't have much fear of these 3 people, there is nothing she can do against them. And for Kobayashi Gentian, she still has some affection for her in her heart and has always treated her as a good friend. Maybe it's because Kobayashi Gentian has a carefree personality, while she is very reserved. So the 2 of them can get along well. Of course, the 2 of them did not have a close relationship like best friends, but it was much better than the bad behavior of the other 10 heroes who would fight each other at every turn. Miss me. During this period, who doesn't know that you are fooling around outside every night? Anyway, you are real too. I have just been successfully appointed as the 2nd seed of the 10 elites, but I dare to give up my job and leave all the affairs to Shi Yingxi. As a result, we have to endure his abuse every time in the 10 elites council. I can't complain. Listening to Kobayashi Gentian's words, Akane Kubo Momo rolled her eyes angrily immediately afterwards. She was about to throw all the souffle desserts she had just made into the trash can. However, the sharp-eyed and quick-handed Kobayashi Gentian next to him quickly grabbed it first and swallowed it one bite at a time. Tao, can't you tell, your cooking skills have improved a lot recently, because he ate too much too quickly. Both sides of Kobayashi Ringtong's cheeks suddenly bulged, and such a cute appearance is just like the scene of a little hamster trying to hide all the food in its mouth. Quite funny. Gentian, don't be so greedy every time, okay? Seeing this situation, Akane Kubateo felt speechless. Aren't you going to throw it away? Why don't you just let me enjoy it and fill my belly, so it won't be a waste? After swallowing hard, Ringtong Kobayashi said to Akane Kubimamo with a satisfied look on his face, "Never mind, whatever you want is fine. If there's nothing else, please leave." Akane Kubo Momo's voice is always as cute as a little Lolita, which is very comfortable to listen to, but judging from her last words, it seems that she doesn't want to talk to Kobayashi Gentian now. Okay, it's my fault for disturbing you. I just want to invite you to go to the Izakaya together in the evening and eat the food there. Not in the mood. Akane Kubimamo refused without even thinking. You really don't want to go? That shopkeeper is very handsome. I dare say that even many of the popular young stars today are not as good as him. Don't you always think that this type of handsome boy is very cute? If you don't witness his style in person, I'm afraid it will be your lifelong regret. Xiaolin. Ringtong's eyes rolled around, and he deliberately said some words in Tao's ear that could arouse her emotion. Sure enough, after hearing this, Akane Kubimamo was really a little worried, but in the end, she still shook her head. Forget it, I have other things to be busy with right now, so I won't go. Could it be you just have to let me tell you, are you willing to go only if he can help you solve the problem that has been bothering you for a long time? Looking at Akane Kubo Momo, who was still not enlightened, Kobayashi Ringtong finally stopped being secretive and spoke truthfully. What? Akane Kubateo was stunned for a moment, then she quickly reacted. Renshin, you mean the owner of the Izakaya? Can you help me figure out how to delay the collapse of souffle dessert without affecting the taste and texture? Right, although I've never seen him making desserts, but my intuition tells me that he can indeed create a souffle dessert that even you will be amazed by, Kobayashi Gentian said with firm eyes. Actually, if you look at it from the perspective of physical and chemical knowledge, French desserts like souffle will definitely begin to collapse quickly when they are freshly baked. It's principle. It's like pumping up a balloon. Mix the beaten egg whites evenly into the batter. The gas and water vapor in the egg whites will expand once they reach a certain temperature, lifting the souffle entirely. After leaving the oven, the temperature drops, the gas contracts, and the souffle collapses. Even because the cooking temperature is higher, the pressure will rise higher and collapse faster. Then there is the superimposed effect of texture. For example, a thick souffle mixture will definitely not be able to rise as easily as a thin mixture. Therefore, this is why souffle dessert is the most difficult of all dessert dishes. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.